Please be upstanding for the worship the Mayor and the mayoral party.
Good evening, everyone. Please be seated. So welcome, everyone, to this evening's Borough Council. Welcome to members, officers, members of the public, both here and watching at home. Can I please ask that everybody puts their phones on silent? And can I remind members that they cannot use social media during the meeting, but members of the public are welcome to. Can I check that everybody has access to the following documents, the main agenda and the supplementary agenda? Good. May I also remind members that all debates should be done through the Mayor and without interruptions. I'm keen to make sure that council meetings proceed fairly and with opportunities for everybody to speak without disturbance. Members will also remember that we are formally committed to civility in public life. I would like us all to set a good example to others. So whilst it's fine for us to disagree politically, we must always do so in a respectful manner. I know I can rely on members to remember this when contributing today. May I also remind you that points of order can only be made about breaches of the Constitution or of law. May I also ask members to quote the relevant sections of the Council procedure rules from the Constitution if they seek to note a point of order. Thank you. We will now move on to our first item on the agenda. So I have received apologies for absence for Councillor Emsley. Do we have any more? Any other apologies for absence? Yes, Councillor Stradtep.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Jagdish Sharma, Councillor Richard Foote and Councillor Arlene Hatwell.
Thank you. Any other apologies for absence? Thank you. May I draw members' attention to the document in the agenda on declaring interests? And so may I also ask if there are any declarations of interest from members about anything on the agenda this evening? No, thank you. So moving on to the first item on the agenda, the first report is simply a request for members to note the outcome of the Cranford by-election held on the 21st of August 2025 and to welcome Councillor Hira Dillon to the Council. Many of us will know Councillor Dillon already, but on behalf of all members across the Council, I would like to welcome him as our most recently elected member to the Council. Well, welcome, Councillor Dillon. Please, can we note the report? So we're now on to announcements. I would like to give the first announcement of this evening and something that I hope most members will already know about. Members will recall that the Council, along with other London Borough Councils, marked their 60th anniversary on the 1st of April this year. To mark our Diamond Jubilee, we have organised a small but very interesting exhibition featuring photographs of various parts of the borough for the mid-1960s. When we came into being, compared with the more modern photographs of those same areas as they look today. It's a genuinely interesting exhibition. I had the great pleasure of formally opening it with the leader earlier on downstairs at the Hounslow Central Library. I know many members were present and I would strongly recommend that you all find some time to pop down and have a look at it. The exhibition will be going on tour around the borough, around the borough's many libraries over the course of this year, and I hope that it will bring great pleasure to many people. It's amazing to see how much familiar places have changed and stayed the same at the same time. Details on how to see the exhibition and where should be on the Council's website. My thanks go to the many officers who have put a lot of effort into creating this marvellous exhibition. My second announcement this evening is simply to congratulate Mandy Skinner on being formally appointed as Chief Executive. We welcomed her in her absence at the last council meeting, but I wanted to do it again here with her actually being here. So on behalf of all members, on behalf of all members, we welcome her to her new role, and we very look forward to working with her for the benefit of all residents of the borough. So now, can I ask if any cabinet members have yes, Councillor Ranjawat.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. With your permission, I would like to make the following statement or announcement. Hounslow is one of the most diverse boroughs in London, home to people of every background, culture, faith and community. Our diversity is absolutely our greatest strength, and it makes Hounslow the vibrant, welcoming and successful place we are all proud to call home. Now, we know that recent events and demonstrations may cause anxiety and concern, and I want to reassure everyone who lives, works or studies in Hounslow that we stand firmly against hatred, racism and division. There is no place in our borough for those who seek to intimidate or divide our communities. For generations, people across the world have chosen to make Hounslow their home. They've enriched our borough with their skills, creativity, traditions and energy. Our strength lies in the fact that we live, work and grow side by side with respect, understanding and unity. And so as leader of the council, I want to be clear. We will always confront hate with hope and division with solidarity. We are committed to working closely with the police, our faith and community leaders and partners across the borough to keep our communities safe, to challenge intolerance and to protect the sense of belonging that defines Hounslow. We all have a role to play in keeping Hounslow safe, inclusive and welcoming. By standing together, celebrating our diversity and supporting one another, we make Hounslow stronger. And I will be putting this statement on the council website after this meeting. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ranjawat. Any other cabinet members have any announcements? Yes, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to announce that the council has successfully raised £1 million through the first ever Hounslow Green Investment Campaign. This marks a major milestone in the borough's commitment to tackling climate change and building a greener future in Hounslow. Launched earlier this year in partnership with Abundance Investment, the initiative gives residents, community groups and businesses the opportunity to invest directly in local environmental projects, with investments starting from just £5. Having reached the target of £1 million for the first round, we will start to use this money to fund a wide range of projects, which include energy efficient upgrades for community buildings, the development of active travel infrastructure, air purifiers and green hedging to improve air quality near schools, and converting underutilised green spaces to promote biodiversity and community food growing initiatives. Future opportunities to invest will be announced in the coming months as we seek to build on the success of this first investment round, and we aim to raise a total of £5 million over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Garrywell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the council will be aware, all libraries across the borough are being transformed into community hubs and libraries by the end of December 2025. Many will also receive new furniture and improved layouts by March 2026. As part of this work, I'm pleased to announce that our new Meadowbank Community Hub and Library opens on 14th of October 2025. It will offer tailored support on issues such as money management, employment, and health and well-being. There will be a modern, welcoming library with a dedicated children's area. We also have digital access points and public PCs and a full curriculum of adult learning and community activities, ranging from digital skills to language classes, to name a couple. Our community hubs are a great example of the council's investment in our community and residents and our commitment to building a thriving and livable Hounslow. And my second announcement, Madam Mayor, is on a programme we held over summer, which focused on supporting women in Heston and Cranford into work. Many residents attended weekly employment support drop-ins and activities, including 169 attending a jobs fair we held for women. The programme is a great example of innovative work that the Council is doing and delivering on our ambition to accelerate opportunity and reducing poverty, poorer health outcomes and fewer opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It gives me great pleasure to report exceptional educational outcomes across the borough this year. Students in Hounslow have once again demonstrated outstanding performance in their A-levels, BTEC and GCSEs examination, achievements that reflects both their hard work and the continued excellency of our local education system. This year, our A-levels students achieved an impressive pass rate of over 97%, with more than 76% of graded awarded A star to C. In BTEC qualifications, Hounslow schools collectively reached a 99% pass rate, with 9 schools achieving a perfect 100% pass rate. Furthermore, 11% of the students achieved the top distinction grade. In GCSEs, our students have once again outperformed the national average, particularly in core subjects of English and maths. In maths, over 76% of students achieved a pass grade 4 or higher, compared to the national average of 72%. In English, 82% of students reached a grade 4 or above, surpassing the national average 71%. Our adult education achievements, I'm also pleased to share that learners enrolled in Learn Hounslow, our adult education service, achieved 100% pass rate in both GCSEs and English language and maths. This is a remarkable achievement and a testament to inclusivity and reach of our borough educational support for all age. These results mean that the vast majority of our students are well prepared to take their next steps, whether into sixth form, college, apprenticeships, or employment, with confidence and a strong foundation. Also, these results reflect the incredible commitment to our schools, families, and learners at every level. On behalf of the Council, I extend our warmest congratulations to all students, young and adults, and their achievements, and our sincere thanks to the teachers, tutors, school leaders, and support staff who makes this success possible. We are proud of what has been achieved and look forward to seeing these learners continue to thrive in the next stage of their journey. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Bath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually have 3 announcements to make, but I'll make them very quick. So I don't know if you looked in your pigeonhole, but I didn't myself, but I got this magazine placed in your pigeonhole today, and I'm pleased to announce that this is a new publication called Her Hounslow, and it's really about disseminating invaluable health information to women across the borough. It's the first of its kind. We've never done anything like this before, but if you do come across any women who are interested in having this magazine, they can download it, or if they go along to one of our health outreach shops, they'll be able to pick up a copy there. But there's some very interesting articles here around women's health, tracking your own health, around breastfeeding and cervical cancer and so forth. So I'm really pleased that we're actually publicising something like this, because I think it's going to be invaluable information to residents on some really life-saving health services. So that's my first announcement. The second announcement is that I'm pleased to announce that we recently launched a new service for unpaid carers, and these are carers that are looking after somebody with a health condition, and it could be a family member, a friend, or a relative. And we recognise that unpaid carers obviously do a huge amount for us in society, and they save us millions of pounds in terms of the invaluable support that they provide. So what we want to do is to support our unpaid carers. And so we've recently launched a service where we are providing information about carers services to carers, supporting them in applying for benefit where it's relevant, and carrying out carers assessments so they can access respite for the person that they're caring for. If you want to know more information, they are available at different places across the borough. So I actually, this gives me an opportunity to actually thank Councillor Madia Asim, who's my cabinet assistant and who has actually been working around the whole service for carers. So if you know anybody that would benefit from this service, please let myself know or Councillor Madia Asim know. And then continuing on the theme of health, my last announcement is that I had the pleasure of attending the official opening of Chiswick Health Centre with our lovely mayor last Thursday. Lovely cake, by the way. And this is an example of, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it's an amazing state-of-the-art health centre with lots of GP practices, integrated health services, including West London Mental Health. And it's a project that has taken a while to come into fruition, but it is really a brilliant example of a joint development agreement with the NHS and Hounslow Council to deliver this really much needed investment. And of course, I must mention 55 new homes along that site as well for affordable homes for key workers. So really pleased with that. And I think it will bring some excellent sort of outcomes and benefits in terms of housing and long-term health to the local residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Yes, Councillor Bruce.
Well, I can do better than Councillor Bath. I've got 4 Councillor Bath. But like her, I will try and be as quick as possible. The first announcement is about housing development at Fern Grove in Feltham. I was delighted to join ward councillors in Feltham North for the latest phase, to see the opening of the latest phase of new council homes at Fern Grove. The scheme replaces 4 outdated homes and an underused garage site with 28 new council houses, including family-sized homes and 4 fully wheelchair-adapted homes for households on our housing register. Built in partnership with Howarth Contractors, this development is part of the wider programme at Fern Grove. Since 2021, we've had 3 earlier phases of development there. And once this is fully complete and occupied, we'll have 204 in total new homes in that area for our residents. So this regeneration continues to show our commitment to families, delivering homes and building stronger neighbourhoods. The second is about our Opportunity Hounslow Conference, which we hosted and organised and ran last week. It was titled Building the Golden Mile of Tomorrow. It was a huge success, bringing together over 100 business leaders, investors and community partners. We lead the way with this approach, and now others are following. Hounslow remains the trailblazer. Lots of people talking to myself and the leader and other cabinet members there were sharing that this is something that Hounslow are leading the way in, bringing these kinds of groups together and showing how the collaboration can work really well for regeneration and development in a borough. At the conference, we launched a bold new place brand for Hounslow and set up the Golden Mile Developers and Business Forum. And at the heart of it all, obviously, are our residents, making sure growth delivers jobs, homes, and opportunities. I want to thank the University of West London for hosting, all our partners that were involved, and a special thank you to our regeneration team who worked incredibly hard to make sure it all came together. Thirdly, while we're on the Golden Mile, I'm pleased to announce that one of West London's most iconic landmarks, the Gillette Clock Tower, is ticking again. After years of disrepair, it has been fully restored as part of our Golden Mile centenary celebration. So Thank you to the Vinyl Factory for all the work that they've done on making sure that that comes through. And I want to thank Councillor Siddiqui, who I can't see over that side, for bringing together all the various groups for the launch event that we had back in July. So thank you very much to everyone who was involved in everything along there. And lastly, an update on rogue landlords. Rogue landlord campaign that we are starting and continuing throughout the autumn is about the strong action we're taking on housing standards across Hounslow. I want to let members know that in just the last 6 months, the council has hit rogue landlords and agencies with over £180,000 in fines. Our enforcement team is out there inspecting properties, tackling those unsafe conditions and making sure tenants have decent homes that they deserve. It isn't, however, just about money. It's about fairness, safety and dignity. And what this shows is when landlords break the law, we will act with fines, prosecutions and banning orders if necessary. And to highlight the fact that it is really about tenants, it's really about residents. We receive, you'll be pleased to know, lots of good quality, lots of good responses to the work that our housing teams do. And I want to read one out, obviously redacted. I'm not going to name names or talk about that, but I do want to highlight the words that they've used in terms of the way our team has worked. Thank you for taking the time to visit us. Your visit was meaningful and we are grateful for your patience in listening to our concerns. We truly appreciate your support in ensuring action is taken so that we can finally have a decent home. Thank you for the support we provide to so many private tenants like me. Your support means we can finally have a decent home. Your effort brings meaningful rewards. And that's why we do it, to protect those tenants, raise standards, and make a genuine difference to people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. I believe that Councillor Lukey wishes to make tribute to the late Councillor Peter Roland.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Peter Roland was councillor for East Bedfont, 1994 to 1998, for those of you old enough to remember or were even born before then. He stood for Labour in the 1983 general election at the time when Brentford and Isleworth constituency was in the hands of Mr. Hayhoe. He came second. He was not elected. Whether in office or not, Peter was a very active member of the Labour Party and very active trade unionist, both in the College Union, NAPI, and in the Hounslow Trades Council, which he secretary from 72 to 82. Peter was also one of the leaders of the campaign to save the old Hounslow Hospital, Liddell, in 1977 to 78, obviously not successful. He was also seen on demonstrations for wider issues, such as opposing the American war in Vietnam. Peter became a socialist when studying for a degree at the London School of Economics, remaining strong in those beliefs for the rest of his life. There he also met fellow student Mick Jagger and once invited Mick to join his band. We know he didn't. Later in 72, he joined the Labour Party and maintained continuous Labour membership from 1975 till his death in 2025. After college, Peter became a history teacher. He moved to Hounslow in the late 60s, where he joined Chiswick Polytechnic on Bath Road, which later became part of the Hounslow Borough College and is now West Thames College. He retired from teaching in the year 2000. Making politics more democratic was a central concern for Peter. To that end, he was a strong advocate of proportional representation, and he joined the Campaign for Labour Party Democracy, as well as the Electoral Reform Society. Always a keen local historian, he wrote a history of Springgrove House, the blue plaque part of West Thames College, and conducted historical walks in different parts of Hounslow Borough. Partly to help after his mother, look after his mother, Peter and his wife Janice moved to Swansea in 2003, where he immediately became active in the Labour Party. He also studied the local history of the area, particularly its industrial history. He had many non-political interests. These included music. He played the trumpet and collected recordings of both jazz and classical music. He read widely, consuming both novels. He could recite the poems of both novels and poetry, and he could recite the poems of, you guessed it, Dylan Thomas by heart. Peter was known for his generosity in helping others in various ways. He had a wide circle of friends with whom he was always ready to share the pleasures of a good pint in the pub. Committee Room 5, of those of you who remember it, the old Jolly Farmers at the on Lambton Road from the old Civic Centre. He will be fondly remembered by those who knew him and who he taught and supported as a councillor. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lukey. If we can now move to the next item, the minutes of the last meeting. We now come to the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of July 2025. May I ask members if they have any corrections they wish to propose?
Madam Mayor, are we dealing with matters arising at the same time?
That's the next item. So have you any corrections first, Councillor McGregor?
I know, Madam Mayor, I just want to thank Councillor Goyle for the answers that were given to my questions from last time. And I thought the artificial intelligence did a very good job.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Is there anybody else who has any items on the matters arising? And that's just for clarification. Yes, Councillor McGregor.
Madam Mayor, on page 16, under the scrutiny annual report, which is item 6 on the minutes, I was expecting to receive from Councillor Raza a response to my question, which wasn't answered during the report debate.
I'm going to take that outside of the meeting, but that request has been noted. Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Any other queries from matters arising? Thank you. Now can I ask members to agree the minutes? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5. Do any members have any new petitions that they wish to present? Thank you, Councillor Lau. If you could bring...
Madam Mayor, I'd like to take this opportunity to submit 2 petitions. Both petitions are from residents of Alderney Avenue and parts of Jersey Road in my ward and the adjoining ward. The first petition is to do with getting a consultation set up for a controlled parking zone signed by about 80 residents. And the second petition is requesting traffic calming measures, and that's signed by about 120 residents.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other petitions? Thank you. We now move to the second part of the process, and we have no petitions for consideration at the council meeting itself this evening. May I now ask members to note the petitions listed in the report and also in this supplementary agenda. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6, State of the Borough. We now come to the agenda item 6, which is the State of the Borough report. And I'd like to remind members that under our recently agreed revised council procedure rules, proposers of reports may speak for 5 minutes, but all other contributions may only be up to 3. May I invite Councillor Shantanu Rajawat as leader of the council to introduce this item.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So, as you said, this evening, Council's asked to consider the State of the Union. There we go. The Union is strong, I can tell you that. The State of the Borough. As we know, this is a regular annual assessment of life in Hounslow, one that looks beyond formal council services and considers the borough at large. And at this point, I should say, as part of the agenda document, you will see there's some static images from the State of the Borough website. I would encourage all members to interrogate that website. There is a lot of information on there that you may well find useful. And for those watching at home as well, there is obviously a lot there. Covering our corporate plan outcomes, thriving, cleaner, greener, safer, healthier and livable. And using the most recent data, the State of the Borough supports the Council's long-standing commitment to evidence-informed decision-making. This matters because we serve more than 300,000 residents of Hounslow to the best of our abilities, and we need to ground our decisions in solid evidence. Now, we know that the world is constantly evolving and the challenges we face change as well. What worked in the past may not work tomorrow. By using insight in all its guises, the policies we craft and approaches we take are rooted in fact, not assumptions. Borough Council should be assured that just because State of the Borough draws on published statistics, the evidence we use to inform our work is not just narrowly focused on numbers. The State of the Borough is part of a much wider ensemble of evidence that includes residents' perspectives and partner expertise, as well as quantitative data and robust service performance metrics. The State of the Borough helps us address issues effectively in partnership with our partners and allocate resources wisely, ultimately benefiting the people and businesses who call Hounslow home. And with that, I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Adjouat. Councillor Bruce, to second.
Yeah, happy to second and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. I'll now invite members to comment on, discuss and debate the report with a reminder that there is a 3-minute maximum per speaker. Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, I'm afraid holidays meant that I wasn't here at last Borough Council, so I'm right in thinking I can ask a question that's not part of my 3 minutes. Yes, okay, thank you. If Madam Mayor agrees with the Leader of the Council.
That question will fall outside of the 3 minutes. It's all in one, isn't it? Oh, sorry, I didn't turn my micro off. It's all in one, so it's part of your 3 minutes.
It's part of my 3 minutes. Okay, right. Right. Quick rejig. Madam Mayor, tonight, obviously, we're here to debate and discuss the state of the, I want to say, union address, and it is obviously a very glossy document and the website that behinds it, but we have to make sure that the reality is sort of, you know, what we recognise on the street. Hounslow is an amazing place. It's why we've all made it our home. Our schools work hard, our communities are resilient and diverse, as the leader said earlier, and our local businesses are productive. But as the report, and it's honest, makes clear, prosperity is not reaching enough of our residents. Take wages. The report admits that our median pay is closer to the London average than the national average. And that's a polite way of saying that families in Hounslow are not sharing in the wealth of London. On housing, that section is called livability, but we know the reality is that it's very hard to be livable when half your income goes on rent. You know, £1,500 for a 1-bedroom flat is not livable, it's crushing. Rents are soaring, young families are priced out, and too many residents are in poor conditions. On crime, yeah, the figures are down, but fear of crime is rising. Almost 1 in 5 residents feel unsafe after dark, and amongst older people it's more than half of them. People don't walk down statistics at night, they walk down streets. Sometimes they're walking down dark streets. And let's not forget domestic abuse. Sadly, we now have the 6th largest rate in violence. Labour promised in its manifesto to work with the police to reduce violence against women and girls. Where is this urgency? The areas mentioned in that section are vitally important. But obviously, there's another crime that I think I need to mention tonight, which is child sexual exploitation, which I'm sure everyone in this room will agree is one of the most serious crimes that society faces, destroying lives and trust in our communities. Last year, there were alleged concerns about grooming gangs in Hounslow. So I'm asking the question now, will the Leader of the Council support the creation of a new cross-party initiative that brings together councillors, the police and schools and community groups to prevent such exploitation, to act swiftly when there are warning signs, and to ensure lasting support for victims and their families. On the environment, Labour promised a 50% recycling rate and a 25% cut in fly tipping. Well, we're nowhere near, are we? Instead, we're the 5th worst borough in London for fly tipping, and recycling is stuck at 36%. So our residents don't want slogans and charts, they want action. They want a council that delivers and puts their priorities first. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Very, very well kept to time. Thank you. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the State of the Union, as put forward by President Rajawat. I just wanted to make some observations and bring it to his attention. A lot of what I was going to say is actually being said by Councillor Thompson, but I do really want to point out on page 46, the two graphs, the median annual wage and the real wages. The first one is to do with the median wage, and we're poorer than the rest of London, and we're continuing to be poorer because if you extrapolate from 2024 to the current levels, it's almost a parallel. We're still not catching up. We're not doing anything to address these issues whereby we can narrow those fields. What's even worse is the real wages, which is the next chart on page 46. The real wages are actually dropping, and the gulf between the rest of London and us is getting wider. It's no good to say, well, we're doing better than the rest of the country, but in real terms, some of the key issues, and Councillor Thompson pointed out one, which is rent increases. Rent increases have a lot more dynamics to it than just not building new houses. Lots of landlords, given the changes in the legislation, are now selling up buy-to-lets because they're no longer feasible. That's only going to put pressure on rents, and the rents are going to be going up further. But yet, the wages are not increasing. Food prices have increased in sometimes by 50-60% in some consumer goods. And the difficulty is the local authority, whilst it has this data and they've gone out to the public to get this data with our partners, we're not doing a great deal about it. And that is something that worries me, because these gulfs are going to get bigger, and come 2026, there will be people held to account. Madam Mayor, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'm proud to share the progress that we've made in building a greener, healthier and more sustainable Hounslow, as reported in the State of the Borough report. Over the past year, we've seen real momentum. Our borough-wide carbon reduction strategy is moving forward, with new funding models set to unlock jobs, skills and warmer homes for our residents. The Community Energy Fund continues to empower local groups, and as we've heard, our Green Investment Programme is giving residents the opportunity to take a real stake in the borough. We're making steady progress on air quality. Thanks to the expansion of the ultra-low emission zone and our own local initiatives, nitrogen dioxide levels have dropped across most monitoring sites, and not a single diffusion tube exceeded the UK legal limit last year, a testament to our collective efforts. But we know there's more to do. Air pollution still exceeds World Health Organization guidelines, and some areas, particularly in the west of the borough, lack access to green spaces and tree cover. Heat risk is rising due to climate change, and vulnerable residents in hot zones need targeted support. We must therefore continue to invest in our greener homes, better insulation and equitable access to nature. On transport, we continue to move forward. Active and sustainable travel is on the rise, with walking, wheeling, cycling and public transport now making up 63% of daily trips, one of the largest increases in outer London. We're building a network of over 2,000 EV charge points, and our expanded emissions-based parking scheme is encouraging cleaner travel choices. Road safety is a cornerstone of our transport strategy. In the past year, we've delivered over £3.5 million worth of improvements through targeted schemes like the community-led scheme, which responds directly to resident concerns. Projects in Feltham, Isleworth and Hounslow have introduced safer junctions, extended pedestrian footways, tactile crossings and speed tables to reduce collisions and accidents. Transport for London's latest collision data shows a downward trend in serious injuries across the borough, but again, we know there's more to do. We remain committed to Vision Zero. That is, eliminating all deaths and serious injuries from our roads. And we'll
20
continue
seconds,
working
Councillor
with
Dunn.
communities to identify and address safety concerns, including speed, the use of illegal e-bikes and e-scooters, and the increasing size of cars on our roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And on page 35, we have the risk statement. The table is sadly lacking in giving us the right capacities. We are impacting at 2 and likelihood of 2 and residual risk, and the score is 4. Where's the benchmark? What are we talking about here? Under section 551, there are no direct risk implications arising from this report. Okay, so what are the indirect ones? They're not fully stated. Acting without being aware of the council's wider operating context clearly carries risks. What risks? We need that information from scrutiny and from Mr. Probert to actually understand the report, because if we have risks we don't understand, then the whole report is actually going to be at risk itself. And so too is our future policy in the council. We need clarity here. The financial implications. There are no direct financial implications related to this report. Okay, fine. So how much did it cost the council to produce this report? Was there a special account set up to actually chuck the costs of this report into that account so we can actually see some clarity of this exercise? If we don't cover risk and we don't cover financial implications properly within this report, the report is absolutely meaningless, because we're not doing what we should be doing, which is to state the first principles of what this report is meant to cover. It is meant to advise us. It is meant to guide us. But if we don't get these issues right, and I have concerns about this, and I'm sure that people still will tell me it's okay, don't worry, Councillor McGregor, we're doing this, we're doing that, fine. But let's see it stated in the report, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sir Humphrey always used to say that an initiative that risked your career would be brave, and one that would risk your seat would be courageous. And I'm extremely grateful to the administration for having given us 93 pages of all things wrong with Hounslow. I absolutely appreciate that this is not a report that is intended to answer the various issues that are in there. And in the spirit of union, because it is a borough that we all love, perhaps I could at least contribute something more positive than I would normally do in these sort of circumstances, in part repayment for the contribution you've made to my campaigns going forward. In the City of Westminster, they also run a State of the City exercise. It makes it easier when it's not the union or the borough. And they've run that for, I dare say, 25, 30 odd years. And part of the follow-up for that, which isn't shown in this report, and I'm critical of it in that respect, but one of the things that they always did is they had a very clear and very public and transparent process for taking the initiatives and the problems that are identified and putting them into projects that would deliver concrete results. Now, I appreciate that behind the scenes you have something that does that sort of thing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be making any progress at all in any area. But could I suggest that actually you might find it more useful, both for yourselves and for the whole of this borough, if you made that process a little bit more transparent and involving of both your opponents and also other stakeholders within the borough, which I'm sure you would wish to do and probably do already. But in Westminster, they would normally find some bright and cheerful young person who's enthusiastic about the potential of local government, not some old crusty person. You responded instantly, Councillor. And they would bring them on to coordinate that activity of putting these things in front of the relevant groups, finding what ideas they have, and then trying to formulate projects that would work. Some of these things are clearly going to be dealt with under business as usual type processes, but others you can fast track through an initiative that, say, that Westminster used to do, where they would identify between 10 and 30 projects that were capable of being delivered within the year. You have an annual process for analysing what is going on. You should also have an annual process for delivering on what's gone wrong. And I just encourage you to do that. and perhaps start by circulating this A to stakeholders, B to the area forums, so they can look at what they could do in terms of building an action plan for their areas. and
20
for our
seconds,
borough.
councillor Dennison.
And by doing that, we could then see you draft a draft plan, say for the January meeting of this council. So we then see what you're intending to do in this borough as a council in 2026 and beyond.
Thank you, councillor Dennison. Exactly on time. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Dennison, for your attempt to be positive. I was a little bit confused because what were we? Too transparent at the beginning, and then we became not transparent enough when you wanted a bit more detail. So I'm slightly confused about what the tone of that message was. I think I heard that you said we need some actionable projects, some things that we take forward, some things that we measure, some things that we look at how we do against some markers. We do. It's called a delivery plan. I welcome you to attend Cabinet whenever you want, and you'll hear us talk about it, and you can read it at your leisure. It shows a variety of things across the council about what we do, why we do it, how we're delivering it, how it's making a difference for people. In answer to some of the things that have been said, and clearly highlighting my portfolio, it's to do with housing. It's to do with housing delivery. It has been incredibly difficult to deliver housing, not just in Hounslow, not just in London, but across the country for a whole variety of reasons. But the situation with the economy specifically has meant that delivering housing has been tricky. But still, since 2022, a total of 861 council homes have been handed over in Hounslow. That includes New Road Triangle, Burlington Close, Wimble Lane, Chiswick Health Centre and Rose Gardens, as well as many others. A further 48 are scheduled for handover very soon. Our local plan is where we talk about the future housing delivery, where sites are identified, the types of homes that places need. And when we talk about jobs and the median income and things like that, it's also about where the jobs are going to be, what types of jobs, what types of economy we want, and how we can move that forward. So in terms of transparency, this is very, very open. It sets clear where Hounslow is right now. Many, many positive things about what the situation is in Hounslow. It's not all about the council. It's about the state of the borough. It's about where we are as a borough, not a council. But in answer to that, it is upon me and us all here how we respond, what we do. And we do that day in, day out, week in, week out, and we are transparent about what we do. I've given some clear indicators just now, and some clear lines of sight forward to how we are going to provide more homes for people, how we're going to provide more jobs for people, the mechanism that we are going to continue to attempt to make this borough the best it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. I'm going to take two more speakers that I've already got, and then we're going to move on in the interest of time after I ask Councillor Rajawat to sum up. So, Councillor Biddulph.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make 2 points, please. First, picking up on the comments made earlier about road landlords and considering what needs to be done for the future for them. It's very interesting that there have been fines of £100,000. But how many road landlords is that? And this isn't a question, it's it's rhetorical. How many landlords is that? I have one landlord in my ward, Chiswick Gunsbury ward, who's been fined the maximum 30,000. So that means that this could just be 6 road landlords, and we know that there are many more than that. I'm also concerned about what happens after they've been fined, and in this case, in my ward, after their license, HMO license, has been taken away from them. 11 people still live in that house in desperate conditions with a threatening landlord. What rights have they got? That hasn't been mentioned at all, and there seems to be nothing that can be done for them. The organisation Justice for Tenants, which is supposed to help tenants, has reached the end of what it can do. So I'd like to sit that there, and then I move on to my second point, which is, as the leader, chief whip, and overview and scrutiny panel chair and members know what I'm about to say, but others might not. This panel's role is to look in depth at housing and environment issues. There are many that need to be looked at, and they're in this report as well as not in this report. and some of them need to be reviewed and perhaps changed. I think of the many people living in social housing, overcrowded and affected by damp and mould. Others are in housing association blocks with promises made to respond to failures, but never delivered. I've been dealing with one case since 2018, just after I was first elected, and another since 2022. We aren't helping them at all. They face huge increases in service charges for poor or absent services. The OSC panel should be looking at that. Instead, in a change to the democratic process, it has been instructed to look at land ownership in the borough. No matter what anyone says or how it is spun, this work is for officers to do. Councillors are elected to represent the residents and business ratepayers. This panel has an even more crucial role in that. We should be not tinkering with admin while residents struggle in homes that are not fit for purpose.
Councillor Biddulph, can I check this relates to the topic on point?
Yes,
to
it
the
does.
state
It's
of-
all about housing, the housing report, and the panel is not being allowed to interrogate housing policies.
But we're talking about the state of the borough report
Yes,
at the
and
moment.
housing is not perfect in the borough.
No, but we're specifically talking about, so I'll give you an extra 20 seconds back, but you've got 20 seconds left.
Okay, I haven't got much more to say. We've heard about the widely reported fears of councillors who are fearful of losing their right, that being able to stand again, and that is now a deterrent.
Again, I'm going to stop you there, Councillor
Okay.
Biddulph. That doesn't relate to the topic on point.
Well, it's all to do with housing there, Madam Mayor.
But-
It's all to do with the state of the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Biddulph. Councillor Garrywell. I'm going to ask Councillor Garrywell to speak, and then I'm going to go to the leader to sum up. If the leader wants to answer the questions, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Thompson asked a question about fear of crime. Hounslow Hounslows level of crime continues to be lower than London average. And during the development of strategy, safer community strategy in 2024-27, it became evident that there was a significant disparity between the actual level of reported crime and the public's perception. Safety community team established a protection, safety task, and finish group. This group collaborates to better understand the drivers behind perceived crime and safety concerns, and to implement strategies aimed to closing the gap between perception and reality. Our partners such as police, West London Chamber of Commerce, enforcement teams, safer community teams, actively engaged in addressing these factors to share accurately with our residents. In April, a 3-year public space protection order for alcohol-related antisocial behavior covering the whole borough was introduced. This is to stop individuals and groups from committing alcohol-related antisocial behavior in public spaces. A breach of the order will result in fixed penalty of £100. If the penalty is not paid, court proceeding may take place and the fine could go up to £1,000. To speak up, the Speak Up pilot has recently been delivered to primary school age children, and Speak Up aim to raise awareness of domestic abuse, health, and relationship with children by delivering 10 daily bites sessions to the same group of children. The program has been adopted to reach secondary age children and will be shortly delivered. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, could I make a point of order?
Thank you, Councillor Garrywell. Yes, you can, Councillor Thompson.
Right.
But can I remind you to refer to the...
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
So in section 9.1 of our constitution, it states that questions are indeed separate from the debate, and that questions should take place and be answered before the debate commences. So I do appreciate this is a new constitution that we're all struggling to get our heads around, but in light of that, could we just have a bit of clarity from the monitoring officer and yourself, just to know that going forward, I'm not asking to replay this one and get my 15 seconds back, wherever it is, but going forward, if we could just make sure we all know what we're doing, myself included.
Absolutely.
Thank
Give
you.
me a second to read what the monitoring officer is pointing me at. Yes, councillor Thompson, you can have your 15 seconds back if you like. That's fine, thank you. You're correct. Can I now ask councillor Rajwat to sum up?
Madam Mayor, would you allow, Councillor Thompson raised some really interesting points around violence against women and girls. Councillor Garrawal's been very close to it. Would you allow her to just respond to those points? Because I think they are important to put on
Yes,
record, if you don't
certainly.
mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. We all know that the scale of violence against women and girls in the UK is considered both a national emergency and an epidemic. Police recorded vogue-related crimes increased by 37% between 2018 and 2023, and that's all across London. But Hounslow's response and how we're dealing with this, the domestic and sexual abuse team delivers a prevention and early intervention model, working with children and young people through therapeutic groups and one-to-one sessions. These aim to build confidence in forming healthy relationships, identify harmful online behaviors, and support young people to stay safe. The team also works closely with the police to tackle WOG in Hounslow, including a joint approach to high-task cases via the MARIC process, regular input into the West Area BCU WOG tactical meeting, the co-location of an independent domestic violence advisor and sexual violence prevention worker in the public protection teams, direct liaison with officers in charge to share risks and strengthen victim support, and training for public protection detectives delivered. Further training for response officers is currently being planned. Now, not only that, but we offer specialist help to survivors of domestic and sexual abuse. And we've had feedback forms from them, and there has been 100% satisfaction on the service they had. And they say that they feel safe following the offer of the specialist help. Now, this is also great because it covers a large pool of domestic and sexual abuse survivors. So supporting women affected by violence is crucial to us in Hounslow because it ensures safety and well-being, empowers survivors to regain control over their lives, breaks the cycle of violence and promotes justice and delivers improved health outcomes. Our support for women not only helps their recovery, but also we aim to create a safer, healthier and more equitable Hounslow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrawal. Can I ask Councillor Rajwat to sum up? Thank you.
Very grateful, Madam Mayor, and thank you for allowing that as well. I'd like to, in summing up, just start by addressing the very important point that Councillor Thompson made around child exploitation and grooming gangs. And absolutely, Councillor Thompson, you have our absolute assurance that we as the administration take this very seriously. In the comments you made, I would urge a slight amount of caution, just out of respect, because we don't want to create panic. We know that a lot of the cases that are reported are dealt with by a specialist team within the Met, not locally based, but centrally based, and it is for them to take that forward. The case you mentioned in your example wasn't just Hounslow, it was multi-borough across a number of boroughs, and it is for the Met to take that forward. And we have to strike that balance between absolutely being serious about it and being very publicly serious about it and providing the mechanisms to report cases and concerns without creating panic amongst our communities. And that is absolutely important. And to your specific question, look, there are already forums that exist that discuss these issues, and they are in public often, certainly in terms of community safety. That having been said, I am of the view, and I think we are all of the view, that actually having conversations around child exploitation, around grooming are really, really important with our faith leaders, with our community more widely. And so I'm very happy to sit down with you regularly, so you are assured, but also a wider conversation around it in faith settings, in community settings, to really bring it to life. But I also, within that, want to reassure you that actually behind the scenes, there is a lot of work going on. There is a lot of intelligence that is gathered and analysed and looked at, and that is really important. So I don't want anyone to leave this room thinking that there is no activity here. It is very, very seriously taken, and we do a lot of work around it, working multi-agency, but it is, for the most serious cases, for the Met to take forward. Now, to formally sum up on the report itself, almost 100 years ago, someone said all politics is local, and I'm also convinced that all solutions need to be local solutions. We want to work with central government and others to make things better, and we'll do that best when we develop local answers to national and international problems. The evidence suggests that wicked problems require sustained, coordinated efforts, to your point, Councillor Mann, as Borough Council will see later this year, when the Council's Vision 2050 is debated. These are not easy issues with straightforward answers. Working together enhances our capacity for long-term systemic change, sharing responsibility and resources, reducing silos and duplication of effort. By aligning our goals and recognising our unique strengths as a borough, we collectively have the best chance of tackling some of the most pressing challenges Hounslow faces. We aren't going to mitigate climate change alone, any more than we can hope to reduce the number of years people spend in poor health by acting alone. Tackling the antisocial actions of a minority cannot be limited to a council response, nor can efforts to create good jobs. The state of the borough describes a labour market where precarious work is too common. We know this. Where even in a pro-growth borough like ours, there is an ongoing need for affordable housing. A place where too many of our children are unvaccinated, too many adults live with conditions that limit their quality of life, and too many of our older residents experience a retirement marred by ill health. These are not iron laws. None of this is inevitable. What is certain, though, is that if we do nothing, we cannot be surprised if things get worse. The state of the borough is a robust evidence base to help everyone understand modern Hounslow and to shape our response as a local authority. Citizen insight, professional knowledge, service performance, and the borough-wide perspective provided by this report and our data hub all underpin how the council and our partners work, how we decide what to do, and how we assess our collective impact. We can also draw on our collective commitment to the borough and a belief that those who care about the future of Hounslow are well placed to make that difference. We are home to 300,000 people and 15,000 businesses. They all have a stake in the borough. They all want to see Hounslow flourish. The challenges we face, economic, environmental and social, are multifaceted.
20 seconds, Councillor Adjua.
Our response will be multifaceted as well. The issues set out in the state of the borough remind us that we achieve more by working together than we ever can by working alone. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. So can I ask members to note the report? If I can just revisit Councillor Thompson's point of order and clarify something. So, and apologies, because these are new procedure rules and we're all getting to know them. So that there is a slight difference. So 9.1 only relates to reports that have come from cabinets, committees and cabinet committee. So the fact that this state of the borough report has come straight here means that all questions are in the mix with the reports, with the debate. If it is another report that has come from that has come, then you're quite right. Questions can come separately, and I will make sure that I'm very clear about which form of one this is moving forward. Thank you. So moving on to agenda item 7, which is the Hounslow Youth Justice Plan 24 to 27. Sorry. Again, this is a straight in one to this meeting, and therefore any questions will form part of your 3 minutes. So can I invite Councillor Samia Chowdhury to propose the report, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think this is really important and I think extremely important report, the Hounslow Youth Justice Plan for 2024-2027, updated 2025. So our Youth Justice Service, or YJS plays a vital role in our communities. It supports children and young people under the age of 18 who have come into contact with the justice system through crime or antisocial behavior. But it goes much further than that. It works not only with the young people, but with their families and usually with victims, aiming to reduce reoffending and to promote a safer and healthier Hounslow. So under Section 40 of the Crime and Disorder Act 1998, every local authority is required to produce an annual plan for how youth justice services will operate and be funded. Today, I'm pleased to highlight the key elements of Hounslow's latest Youth Justice Service Plan. The YJS plan is not just a requirement, it's a statement of intent. It shows where we are, what we have achieved, and where we are going. And it makes clear that in Hounslow, we do not give up on our young people. We support them, we listen to them, and we work with them to create brighter, safer futures. Performance is assessed rigorously using both local and national indicators, and we benchmark our work against other local boroughs and national averages. Oversight is provided by the Youth Crime Management Board, ensuring accountability, transparency, and ongoing challenges. So what sets this plan apart is that it is grounded in evidence and lived experience. It incorporates lessons learned, data analysis, and self-assessment against youth justice standards. But it also centers on something equally important, which is the voice and potential of our children. In Hounslow, we are committed to reduce the number of young people involved in the justice system. We do this not only through punishment, but through personalized, strength-based supports that recognize each young person as an individual with potential, not just as a case number. Our approach is rooted in early intervention, tailored support, and constructive relationships. And we know this work cannot be done in isolation. So the plan reinforces the essential role of our parents, partners, including police, education, health, and the voluntary sector and our communities. Together, we form a network of support that can prevent offending and breaking cycle of harm. So a few highlights. Youth offending remains very low, 71 children in 2024 to 2025 compared to the number of children in the borough. Only 2 custodial sentences in last year, which is same as previous year. So Hounslow is low crime borough. Youth crime has significantly declined since 2017 to 2020 when over 100 children have substantive outcome annually. First time run rates 150 per 100k compared favorably to London and 180 and national 158 over the past 12 months. So new program coordinator post has been created to expand and strengthen restrictive and represent work with community partners, youth voices now more involved in discussions, making via YCMB and new subgroups. As we look ahead, Madam Mayor, our Youth Justice Service remain firmly committed to a child-first approach, prioritizing early year help, prevention, and meaningful diversion from the justice system. We are focused on strengthening both the resources and the services we provide, ensuring that they are responsive, accessible, and aligned with the need of our children and families. Governance remain a key priority. The Youth Crime Management Board will continue to enhance its strategic leadership, ensuring strong oversight and clear accountability. We are also investing in our workforce, building staff capacity, skills, and expertise to deliver high-quality, trauma-informed, and cultural competent practices. Evidence-based practice and innovation are at the heart of our approach, and we're committed to using what works while also being open to new creative intervention that can better support the outcomes. And finally, we'll continue to evaluate our impact using data, feedback, and outcomes to drive improvement and ensure that every child we support receives the best possible service in Hounslow. And with that, I move the report. The recommendations are on page 126, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Impressive, Councillor Chowdhury. 4 minutes and 56 seconds. Can I ask Councillor Bruce to second?
Yes, I'm very happy to second. I'll say a few words now. Those of you who've been here a while, like me, will know I had this portfolio for a number of years. And so, like Councillor Chowdhury has done this evening, I've moved a number of these reports. It is pleasing to see that in many ways, this borough and youth crime in this borough has got much better, or should I say worse? Which way around am I saying it? The work we're doing is a lot better and the crime has gone down. That's exactly what I'm trying to say here. There are obviously some outliers in that and things where things have shifted in terms of the type of crime being committed. And I think we are open and transparent about this, and we need to be in order to deal with it. One of the key things here in the numbers that are included, it's easy to focus on some of the numbers in here, but actually you've got to remember the vast majority of young people in our borough do not commit crime. I think we have to, as a teacher, it's incumbent on me to focus on the positives. And I think that is a really important thing to focus on. And equally, those who do, the reoffending rates are reducing year on year. And that is an important aspect as well, because that shows our involvement. That shows parents' involvement. That shows people around that young person doing the right thing, supporting them and enabling them to get on with their lives as we would want them always to do. One of the significant issues raised in the report, and it is raised right throughout the report, as well as in the covering report under the communities and equalities section, is about the disproportionality of those committing crime. And I think young people committing crime. And I think it is really important, again, to note that we recognise that and we are proposing to do things about that. What we do know is that there are various young people from different backgrounds or different areas of the borough who disproportionately commit the crimes that we are talking about here. And we need to be able to deal with that. We have the figures, we know about that. And it comes back to, I think various people were talking earlier on the previous report. What is it that we're going to do? And this plan tells us what we're going to do about that and how we're going to deal with those things, as well as recognising the problem. So thank you, Councillor Chowdhury and your team, for all the work you put into this. And I'm very happy to second the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. We'll now open the floor for debate, if anybody wants to contribute. Yes, Councillor Mashisho.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll do a bit of McGregor and move around so that you can see me and hear me. I want to thank Councillor Chowdhury for this report and for the senior officer, Mr. Stephen Forbes, for forwarding the introduction to it. I thought it's very substantive, it's very detailed, and as we have said, it's picked up some of the themes in there that are important. But like Councillor Bruce just mentioned, it's important to also focus on the positives. He, as I, are both teachers, and often when you are dealing with your pupils, you often focus on the ones below, but sometimes we forget the success. So this report, I completely concur with you there that we should also focus on the successes. But if I can take you, Madam Mayor, to page 137, there was just one area that I disagree with Councillor Bruce on, and that's that he's saying that the crime or the substantive outcomes, committed crimes, offences have dropped, but they actually haven't. From 2023-24 to 2024-25, there's been an increase of 64 offences, that's substantive outcomes. Those are things that have gone to court and or they've been cautions added. So if you look at that, you see that actually your comments there are incorrect. But
point of clarity.
Can I allow a point of clarity, Madam Mayor?
Well, if I can ask you to do that after Councillor Mashisho is finished.
Thank you. So, where I work, our motto in my school is minimis incipe, from small beginnings. And in this borough, we really have to look after the smallest people in our society. Those are our youth, those are our youngsters. And I think that's really important. I think the seriousness of this report reflects that this borough takes its young people very, very seriously. But the word disproportionality is the one that for me comes out of this report that I really worry about. It's not only the disproportion of black young youths who are being identified here, but also white youths as well. Even though that number has dropped slightly for the black youths, it has actually increased for the white youths in terms of disproportionality. And may I suggest, and perhaps ask the lead member on children and young people, to say perhaps what other strategies are we going to be using to try and address this disproportionality? Anecdotally, when I walk around Feltham High Street and other
20
areas
seconds, Councillor
that
Mashir.
are disproportionate, I find that often the areas have been deprived, they've been left graffiti on the walls, litter not being picked up. We're 5th worst borough for fly tipping. So can I suggest that perhaps one of our strategy is to actually clean up the borough so that we have that broken window theory
Thank you, Councillor
actually in
Mashir.
action for Hounslow. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Did you want to make a point of clarity there, Councillor Bruce?
Yes, what I said was I was really pleased with the work that had happened since I had given up being the lead member, and I didn't actually at the time thank Councillor Bath as well and Councillor Chowdhury for the work they've done in the last 3 years, because if you look at the figures, when I stopped being the lead member, 77 young people committing 200 offences, and now it's 71 committing 195, which has reduced. I agree in part that it has gone up recently, but overall the trend is down, and that's what I was highlighting.
Thank you for the point of clarity. Councillor McGregor.
I have a great interest in this area for a variety of reasons, and I'd like to pay a tribute to Phil Hopkins, Head of Adolescent Services, and to Stephen Forbes for the work they put into this report and the work they do for the board. The important thing about this approach is that we need to get it right. So I read this report, and unfortunately, the report that came out from Stephen Forbes has some material errors in it. It doesn't actually scan. So, for example, on page 133 of our agenda, if you look at the last paragraph, 4 lines down, the words are, the recruitment of a full-time program coordinator and restorative justice officer are beginning to make a positive impact to this, our, what? Reparation offer and work with victims required. So, okay, so what are the metrics for the success of that particular officer? And why does that particular part of the report not actually work? I can't understand it. So moving on, you get to the top of page 134, the relaunch. Where's the of? When I start reading these reports, these are important reports that have gone through the mill. Why are these things not being picked up? These are important reports which become almost quasi-legal documents. And then look at the bottom of the first paragraph on page 134. XX, love and kisses? Come on, let's get real about this. What is that doing there? Who has scanned this? Who has cast this? Who has looked at this to make sure that the council is presented with proper documentation? Go down the page. We've used the word alignment on several occasions in this report, but get to the bottom paragraph on page 134. We continue to align. What are we doing? Taking cocaine? Come on, guys. Wake up. Wake up. Oh, Councillor Lukey like that. Okay, move on quickly. All right. And then as a partnership, we will continue to review and develop our services. This is the last paragraph on page 135. So as a partnership, we will continue to review and develop our services to engage with children at risk. Thank God for that. More power to everyone's elbow. Very concerned about this. But then, what are we doing? Okay, we're using very poor English because we then go on to say, ensure we embed the rights of it. No, it's not either to ensure or ensuring, because you've got a present participle touching a past participle. Come on, get the grammar right. And I'd just like to say that,
20 seconds,
looking at the
Councillor
work that we
McGregor.
get here, I accept the report in full. It's a decent report. It's an important report. It helps us understand what's going on in our borough, and I really appreciate that. But for heaven's sake, let's get the paperwork right, because if we get it wrong here, it's going to be wrong elsewhere. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. I'd just like to make the point that the first and the last issues you raised were in fact correct, not wrong. But I take that there are typos in between, and we'll give that back to officers to correct. Thank you. Any other speakers? In that case, I'm going to ask Councillor Chowdhury to sum up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Thank you, Councillor Mashisho and Councillor McGregor. Thank you so much for highlighting a few things which you have. And I'm really, really glad to hear that you will be supporting the report. Really happy. But a couple of things I just wanted to say in my sum up. I completely understand about the disproportionality, and we our YCMB actively monitoring and will monitor this and provides a regular training of disproportionality to ensure we reduce this. And we're also working with the community partners to see how we can increase our offer for children's after school to support them and prevent them from getting involved in crime. And Hounslow funded outreach workers have been running activities have been aimed that at children's they have met through outreach, and may include peer siblings who comes along as well as children's are signposted to the activities through coming to the attention of the police or youth workers. I think we have been doing a great work, and I completely understand the comments have been made. But on this note, I think I'll just like to say thank you very much to Philip and Stephen and all my team for delivering a great job what they're doing. Thank you so much for their support. Thank you for everyone for your support on this as well. And I'll just move the report, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chowdhury. Now that's concluded, can I ask members to vote on the recommendations? All those in favour, can you raise your hands? All those against? And any abstentions? Thank you. That motion is passed. Sorry, it's not a motion. That is accepted. Thank you. Now moving on to agenda item 8, reference from a cabinet meeting held on the 2nd of September. It's the Treasury Management Annual Report. Now we come to agenda item 8, which was held last meeting of cabinet held on the 2nd of September, asking members to note the Treasury Management Annual Report. I'm going to invite Councillor Rajwat to propose and introduce the report, but I will just say that as this is an item coming from cabinet, then 9.1 does apply to this particular one. So Councillor Rajwat, if you could propose, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. You stole my thunder on that one. I was going to say exactly what you just said. This is, as you say, the Treasury Management Annual Report. We're required to produce an annual report which sets out our prudential activity, our Treasury management activity, and our borrowing over the course of the last year. This report has been to Audit and Governance Committee as well as Cabinet itself before coming here. The report is very self-explanatory in its nature, so I wasn't going to spend too much time dwelling on it. However, a lot of the activity here does underpin a lot of the activity that we have as an administration in terms of our capital programme and our programme of delivery for the council. So it's a very important document, but it's also very important that it's very transparent. And I think I'm waiting for Councillor Todd's questions. It is actually quite a transparent document, and I think it is self-explanatory. So I move it.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. Councillor Bruce, would you like to second?
Yes, very happy to second. I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. So before we get to the debate part of this item, in the case of reports from Cabinet or from a committee, our new council procedure rules make a distinction between questions and debate and require questions to be asked first and then the usual debate to follow afterwards. This means that questions that were previously asked of Cabinet members and committee chairs as part of the debate itself must now be asked separately. I've taken legal advice from the monitoring officer, who's advised that any member may therefore now ask one question of the relevant Cabinet member, in this case, Councillor Rajwat. Therefore, on the report, not just randomly, and therefore do any members have a question that they wish to put to that member? So, Councillor, I'm going to take Councillor Dennison first, then Councillor Giles, then Councillor Todd. Councillor Dennison.
Yeah, I'll keep this short and brief. My question is, given that it is so self-explanatory and transparent, what are the leaders' 3 takeaways that we should take from this report?
Thank you, Councillor Dennison. I'm going to take all 3 questions and then go back to Councillor Rajwat. Councillor Giles.
Great, thank you. Why is the council robbing Peter to pay Paul by bailing out the Lambton Group in paying so that the Lambton Group could pay the interest payments on the loan that it already owes us, and therefore recycling taxpayers' money through an internal loan? That is my question.
Thank you, Councillor Giles and Councillor Todd.
I can work it. Paragraph 446. The loan to Lambton at a specified time was 251 million. There was a huge sum of 17 million undrawn balance, which was not being used, was repaid, and the loan facility reduced accordingly. Are we saying that Lambton borrowed money they didn't use?
Thank you, Councillor Todd. Councillor Rajwat, would you like to answer those in any order that you choose?
So Councillor Todd will be aware there is a loan facility available to Lambton to use as and when they need to. If they don't use it, obviously it needs to reflect here. It does sit on their balances. So that is very straightforward. In terms of Councillor Giles's question, I think you misunderstood the premise of this, Councillor Giles, insofar as the loan is generally sat over here. If they don't repay, there are penalties attached that they then have to pay back to us. It is not a case that one is subsidising the other. In terms of Councillor Dennison's, I'll give you 2 takeaways. I don't have 3. Sorry, it's just the way it is. Prudential indicators haven't been breached. There was a technical breach in Lambton, which is detailed within the report. And well, actually, the third one is actually it does fall within strategy that we have increased borrowing in order to finance the capital programme. In past years, we use internal borrowing. That has reduced over time. However, we still remain committed to the capital programme and delivering for our residents. Give 3.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. Any further questions before debate? Thank you. Now, we can now open the report for discussion. Yes, Councillor Todd.
The report concerns me, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples, Leader. I've raised it before and I've had no response at all whatsoever. It has a mandate, the head of finance has a mandate to purchase securities, bonds, as you see they're here, Legal and General and others. But you see at paragraph 418 that they invested in Fidelity and lost £4 million. That's a lot of money. My other point is that a stranger reading the report, and in particular details of the Legal and General Bond Fund, will see it's been valued at, the holding is valued at 11.9 million. I don't challenge that, but how can anyone reading it know how much money they've made? The cost of that item is not shown. And the actual cost of that was 10.8 million. I'm going into technical detail, but I'm trying to make the point that I welcome the initiatives within your department, but you can't sit at home and read it and work out what the profit is or the risk. And more worrying with the Fidelity stock, where we lost £4 million. They were showing, instead of the cost value of 20 million, they were showing between 15 and 14 million in the report. Now, that's correct as a market value, but it's not what it cost us. and surely the prudence and oversight is crucial on that. Can I extend the dialogue, if you wouldn't mind? Is we hear a lot about housing, and the huge lending by borrowing, I should say, by Lambton is. I think they've bought 629 houses at the moment. Some are assigned by you, and others we're not quite sure. There's no sign of any void data there. I don't know how many are commercially viable. So I know you're working with your shareholder committee to get some KPIs, but the whole
20 seconds, Councillor Todd.
The whole housing oversight wants some data, and I think you promised KPIs which haven't yet appeared. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other? Yes, Councillor McGregor.
I notice with great concern, Madam Mayor, that Appendix 6 has been completely overtaken by events. Appendix 6 was produced by an outside agency in April 2025. That's 5.5 months ago. The consequences of actions taken internationally are having a huge impact on the cost of borrowing and the cost of providing capital funds. They mentioned the war in Ukraine. So we're going to have another 100,000 dead Ukrainians, another 200,000 Russians in the very near future. We know what's going on in Palestine. Another 20,000 people killed since April, minimum. So we need to be aware that these are huge strategic issues that are going to impact on the borrowing we make on the London money market. Question of internal versus external is very important. We need to get our costs down. We need to get back into balance to ensure that we can actually have a stability that we used to have in the past. I noticed that a LOBO, which I organized in 2007, has finally been taken out because the lender wanted to exercise their rights to go to a 7.5% interest rate because they were concerned about the quality of the lending. We then responded to that by actually buying out the loan. Quite right too. Well done, our management team. But these issues need a lot of flexibility. We need to have watch on a daily basis. And the concerns that I share with Councillor Todd and my colleagues in the Conservative group here are that we do not have enough control of our capital funding. We do not have enough control of our need for borrowing, and we are not doing enough to keep our costs under control. Over the past 1.5 years or so, if you look at the employment statistics for the borough, they've gone up again. Why? What have we done? What have we done that is extra to the needs of the population in the last 1.5 years? Why? So I asked not these questions as a rhetorical issue. These are real questions which I need answers from. And I look forward to getting those answers in the course of the next period up until the full budget here, a meeting in early next year. And I hope at that budget meeting we have longer than 3 minutes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm wondering, Councillor McGregor, whether you were referring to the good old days when you're talking about your days or my days. I'm starting to think that I'm getting old enough to have more behind me than in front. And actually, it's always interesting. I always recommend it to people who are interested in local government finance. You should never read a finance report without reading its predecessor. Now, it's a little bit hard when there are 111 pages of this one, but reading the other 111 pages from a few years ago is actually extremely instructive. And to be honest, if I've got one major criticism of you today, Councillor McGregor, it's that but yourself and Councillor Todd, you are two paragons of virtue almost in terms of finance compared to the current administration, and experts, again, certainly compared to the current administration. You have a habit now of understating the scale of the problem that this borough faces. And your quietly spoken politeness, which I am not often accused of myself, but your politely spoken quietness often, I think, fails to get people to see some sense, because at the moment we have a trajectory which is extremely worrying. And I'm not talking about the crystallisation of the almost £4 million worth of losses. Those sort of things happen. I'm not talking about the grotesque weight that Lambton is now playing on the council's finances. As again, I think almost everybody is knowing about it, but not doing very much about it. The fact that there was a technical breach is indicative that things are getting a little bit tight. That's what those indicators are there for. It's not just, oh, whoopsie. It's something that you need to pay attention to. Because if you do compare today's reports with those of a few years ago, 2018 I went back to, definitely the good old days, the borrowing levels are 3 times what they were in 2018. And not only are they 3 times what they were, but we are seeing increasing debt year on year now under this administration. And in addition to that, we are also repeatedly seeing them closing in on the prudential headroom that they are allowed. 3 times since 2022. 3 times since 2022, the CFR has had to be raised. And to be honest, this report tells me, and it should tell you, that by November, you'll be wanting to do it again. Well, what does that mean in simple terms? In simple terms, if you look at
20 seconds, Councillor Dennison.
It means that if a Labour council is re-elected next May, we will be seeing £1 billion worth of debt at this council. We are getting to that point where you are breaking the machine, and you need to pay attention. Humphrey
Thank
said
you,
he would be
Councillor
brave
Dennison.
if you lost your job. Courageous if
Thank
you lost
you,
your
Councillor
seat.
Dennison.
It would be reckless if you didn't do something.
Thank you, Councillor Dennison. Any further contributors? Then can I ask Councillor Rajawat to sum up, please?
Who are doing so well? Councillor Todd, you mentioned Fidelity again and again on that. You will also know that we withdrew with that when we found out that there was a problem. Lambton Investments, there is a fundamental review going on that along the lines that you mentioned, and we'll report back on that. Councillor McGregor, I take issue with the suggestion that we're not watching on a daily basis. And in fact, to you as well, Councillor Dennison, we are keeping a watch on a daily basis. We have incredibly competent staff that do a great job and actually translate some of that technical work to lay idiots like me, as Councillor Dennison put it. And to you, Councillor Dennison, to enjoy the good old days when there was money in the system is absolutely great. But I challenge you to come and sit in my seat and deal with the issues of the last 14 years, of the issues of inflation unchecked by the previous government. I challenge you to make some of the decisions that we are making to support our residents, because I can guarantee if there's one thing about you, sir, is that when it comes to push comes to shove, you will bury your head in the sand and not deliver for residents. We will carry on delivering for our residents. This is a difficult report. We know it's a difficult report, but it is open, it is transparent. You do need to borrow in order to deliver for our priorities. We will absolutely deliver. And the bit that you didn't mention on that side of the room is that this is all in the backdrop of a challenging budget round, a budget round that we are not shirking from, that we will absolutely respond to, where we will bridge the gap, make savings, and improve the experience of our residents. And that is all that matters. So you can talk to me about losing my seat and losing the council all you want. Let's face it, we will do a damn sight better than you would ever do as leader of the council.
Thank you, Councillor Rajawat. And thank you, everybody, for their contributions. Can I ask members to note the report? Thank you. We now move to item number 9 on the agenda, flexible voting pilot. May I invite Councillor Rajawat to propose and introduce the item? Sorry, and again, I'm going to say, sorry, Councillor Rajawat, this report does not come from another committee on the Cabinet, and therefore the debate will follow the usual pattern being done in one stage, with questions and comments all forming part of the debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item's created quite a bit of a buzz, especially from colleagues in the opposition. I'm sorry to have to say, I'm going to just dampen down the buzz a little bit. This is a report for information for agreement by council to submit a application, an expression of interest to MHCLG around methods of flexible voting. What we've seen over the last couple of years is very low turnouts at both by-elections and all-out elections as well. And I think it's absolutely right that in that context, we explore, or the government explore, ways of expanding the franchise and really giving people the opportunity to express their vote. What you see within the report are some examples. Just to be absolutely clear, there is no indication that MHCLG 1 will accept our application at all. And if they do, accept the proposals that are contained within there. And even if they do, this is not the final version. We need to look at it much, much more closely, but it is a start of a 10 if you like. So whilst the debate, I'm sure, will be very interesting on this, actually at this point, I'm just seeking council's endorsement to submit an application to MHCLG. And on that basis, I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Adrabat. Councillor Bruce, would you like to second?
Yeah, happy to second the report. And I will speak now. In February this year, my daughter wrote a letter and it begins, "Dear Prime Minister, I'm writing to you because I believe young people in this country should be able to vote. Not at 9 years old like me, but maybe at 14 and certainly at 16. They should have the chance to vote." It goes on and there's some other things that she says. In April, she received a reply. "Dear Lyra, I'm writing on behalf of the Prime Minister to thank you for your well-written letter about voting age," etc., etc. "As the Cabinet Office is part of the government responsible for things you have raised, I've sent your letter to them so they are made aware of your views." In July, what did the government announce? That they were proposing to lower the voting age. I mean, I'm not saying she had everything to do with it, but I think a substantial amount. Why do I tell that story? Why do I say that? And I think it's indicative of a situation that we have where many people feel passionate about ensuring, including my daughter, feel passionate about ensuring as many people as possible can cast their vote. In her case, she was talking about the age of voting, and that's what the government were talking about then. But equally, the government have been talking about expanding acceptable voter ID, improving voter registration, and in this case, flexible voting. There are a number of different proposals from the government in their proposals about how this would go. What we're talking about here is having that early voting, or proposal, I should say, and echoing what the leader said, proposing that early voting. Now, I'm not saying this is a panacea. I'm not saying this is going to solve everything. Some proposals, such as these that have happened before, some pilots that have happened before, have had mixed, if limited, results, and I'll be absolutely honest about that. That's what the Electoral Commission say. But it is also fair to say that when taken in context, previous electoral changes have also had low impact early on, but have then had significant impact later. For example, postal votes. In 2001, it was about 3.9%, took that up, and by 2019, it was 17%. So this may not have initial significant change, but what we are seeing here from the government and what we are proposing to be part of as a Labour administration is to try and enfranchise people, to ensure people who are entitled to vote, as many people are entitled to vote as possible, have that opportunity and will continue to do so. So when I told my daughter about this proposal, she punched the air and says, absolutely.
20 seconds, Councillor Bruce.
And like her, I also support this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, if I can open the floor for debate. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I think to say, Leader, that this has caused excitement in the ranks would be perhaps a slight overstatement, but we just frankly can't see the point. Let's be honest, this is an experiment, a pilot, a bid in search of a problem. No one's ever been knocking on my door saying that voting on a Thursday was a problem. And if they did, as you said, quite rightly, Councillor Bruce, we now have an extensive postal voting system. Residents do not want us to be wasting time and money on solutions to problems that don't exist. So an extra 3 days of voting, perhaps 4 hubs across the borough, mobile voting stations going I don't know where, all means extra staff, extra logistics, extra ballot bots moving backwards and forwards. And as you mentioned quite rightly, and the report says, when it's been tried before, it really didn't make any difference because the people who, yeah, it might be convenient to go and vote in Sainsbury's or wherever you want to vote, they're the ones who are voting anyway. There is an issue in this country with democracy. Turnout is appalling. There is a serious conversation to be had about making things better. But this is a waste of time. So the report tells us it's okay because it's government money, so it won't cost us. But I think there is no such thing as government money. It's our money. And the government needs to be spending it. And God knows they've got plenty of things on that list that they should be doing on things that residents want to happen, not on making Hounslow residents a guinea pig for a scheme that none of us actually want. So what I would just say in conclusion is that at a time when trust in politics is low, when people have very sort of negative view of us and the system, our job is just to keep it simple, solid. 1 day, 1 vote, clear, trusted, postal and proxy for those who can't, not 3 days experiments and mobile polling stations. If you want to if the government wants to have an experiment on this issue, perhaps they can go somewhere else. Here in Hounslow, we should focus on doing what we always do, which is running elections that people can trust. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Sorry, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have some reservations regarding this report. Young people engagement, I'm happy to do, and I have no problem with that. In terms of the existing electorate, what it does do, because I think that in what we do in Hounslow, we're not doing anything particularly well, and we don't have the mechanisms to weed out those areas where there is electoral fraud. This mechanism works very well in Canada and the United States, and lots of people swear by it that they want this system. The problem, and I think I can highlight the example, which is not actually within the body of the report, but you know, I can take you back to Lutfur Rahman in Tower Hamlets and the issues around those discrepancies in the votings, because some of them were overtaken by religious...
Sorry, Councillor Mann, I'm going to stop you there and ask you what relevance this has to the report.
It's about the difficulties that will be faced should this report proceed to an application being successful. I mean, Madam Mayor, I mean, you are legally qualified. I don't want to challenge you, but, you know...
Councillor Mann, this proposal is to expand, is to put in a request for a pilot to expand it, but it is not discussing what you are discussing.
I'm highlighting some of the difficulty you would come across if we're successful in the
Well,
pilot.
can you explain for the benefit of everybody exactly what you think the difficulty will be?
I was getting to that, and I
will give you the time back for my interruption
I'm
as
not
well.
interested in the time, Madam Mayor. I'm just literally telling you that, you know, if we proceed down this line, we don't have the mechanisms at this moment, I believe, to deal with those issues that have been thrown up in the past with electoral fraud and electoral mismanagement. Canada and America, as I gave you the examples, they're actually a lot more advanced because they've had this system for some time. But the reality is, I didn't want religious groups to take ownership of this and have en masse voting, as we've seen a number of areas happen around London and also in the Midlands. But in general, in terms of principle of it, I don't think it's a bad principle. But I don't think it's a bad principle, but I think the mechanisms are not in place. And this is my highlighting to you, that we need to get
20 seconds,
robust,
Councillor Mann.
Yeah, we need to get robust control mechanisms so that we can actually weed out those areas where these problems may arise, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to say, before I was ever a councillor or involved in politics, I walked the streets of Brentford trying to encourage people to register to vote because voting is the turnout is, as Councillor Thompson says, the turnout is poor. Anything that we can do to make turnout better has got to be a good thing. The incidence of electoral fraud in this country is absolutely minimal. And there are a lot of clever people who look at it and that's what they find. It's minimal. So I think that it's a far worse issue for democracy if people don't vote. So anything we can do to make more people vote is good for our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Vikram Garrywell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I genuinely, I'm not really sure where to start here, Madam Mayor. It seems like the opposition, whether it's independents, whether it's Conservatives, are against more people in this borough voting. And the leader of the opposition said, we're trying to fix a problem that does not need to be solved. Is he talking about us being a majority and them being the minority? Or what is he talking about here? They seem to have missed the point of this report, Madam Mayor, which clearly states that this pilot, if we're adopted and chosen to adopt this for the first time, is putting power back in the hands of our residents. That is their right to exercise their right to vote, and we're purely giving them more flexibility to do that. And if you're putting democracy in every corner of this borough, in areas where some people have personal circumstances, whether you're a carer, whether you have disabilities and you find it hard to make it to the polling station on the day, you haven't registered for postal votes as well, but you want your voice to be heard, this is the avenue for it. It gives you more time to vote, it gives you more time for your voice to be heard, and quite frankly, have more of a participation who represents you both within your ward and across the entire borough. So I find it incredibly hard to understand how we are not solving a problem that does not exist, like Councillor Peter Thompson said, when we're trying to get more people to vote. We have seen turnout being an issue in some by-elections. We saw it in Cranford, an area that I represent, and we've seen it in other parts of the borough. So this is an issue. This is a way that we can try and address it. It's a pilot. It will take time to be implemented correctly and be successful and come through in the numbers. But we have to try and get more people to vote in this borough. And irrespective of how they vote, I'm more than happy for it. You know, as an ethnic minority, I know that our ancestors in this country fought far too hard to give us the right to vote. And particularly even with women, you know, my eldest daughter is called Sophia after Princess Sophia, who supported the suffragettes to get women the right to vote in this country. They want people to vote more. It is our duty to vote more and turn out. And this is a way to make it more accessible to every single corner of this borough. So I fully support it. And I encourage everybody, whether they're on this side of the chamber or that side, to also follow me in that suit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrywell. Councillor McGregor, which I was writing Councillor McGregor, Councillor Thompson, when I called you Councillor McGregor. That's why I said
Madam Mayor, that I support what Councillor Thompson had to say. So we speak together on this matter. So whether you call me Councillor Thompson or whatever, I don't mind. I've had 60 years experience of elections, and I've had a university course, 3-year course in government and governance, which included a huge amount of comparative work on elections. I certainly would like to challenge what Councillor Garrywell said, because I think he's talking about opening the gateway to extremism. And I think the outcome of what he's going to be looking at will be a reform government or a reform council. Because once you make it easy enough for people to stay on their sofa and vote, which is the consequence of this, then you're going to find that we end up with a voting result that no one expected. I'm not frightened of that, but it's a consequence. Another consequence is, if you look at items 6.6 and 6.7 on page 310, we're talking about characteristics of people who will need to be encouraged to come out and vote, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. But the important thing about that is, you know, what about lunacy? What about wards of court and the court of protection? Where do they stand? Why aren't they registered here? I want the lunatics to be able to come in. After all, many of us are close to that already. And when we look at staffing, workforce, accommodation implications on page 311, that's paragraph 13. Come on, we were expecting the MHCLG, that's the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, to those who are not familiar with it. The MHCLG is going to provide the extra funds. Wait a minute, they don't have any funds. It's the taxpayer who's going to pay for this. The taxpayer is going to pay for this. And as with traditional polling stations, we're talking about staff. And we mentioned the EU Working Time Directive. What is that doing in this report? What is it doing in this report? It's not a lawful instrument because we had something called Brexit. I'm not proud of that necessarily, but we have to recognize it. So when we talk about this stuff about voting, if you're committed to political activity, you will vote. If you are not committed to political activity, you won't vote. Why does local authority elections have such a low turnout? Because the majority of people are not enfranchised
20
by
seconds,
it
Councillor
because they
McGregor.
don't pay the council tax. They don't pay the council tax. And the consequence of that is that they don't have an interest. They don't have an interest in what they might want to do with the extra money. So the point I'd also raise is that going back just a moment to
Thank you, Councillor
the time when we
Thompson.
were in
You're out
charge
of
of the
time.
council, and I talked about reducing.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Councillor Bidoff. Thank you, Councillor McGregor. It's getting late. Councillor Chopra.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for giving me the chance to speak. I said mayor, but I've got a sore throat. I'm sorry. Just want to keep it short because I've got a sore throat. I really support this idea of having mobile voting. My ward, Hounslow West, is predominantly, because it's so near the airport, has a lot of people that work at the airport. And they often find it very difficult to go and vote because either they're working very unsociable hours or they might be working at night and sleeping during the day, or vice versa, working very late hours and then sleeping in the evening and never remembering to go and vote. So the fact that they have lots of different dates where they can find the opportunity to go and vote, I think is great, because that will definitely help us to increase the number of people going out to vote. And we know that the number of voters are getting less and less due to, well, various reasons for their lifestyle. And this is only encouraging and giving them more opportunity to go out and vote. In my ward, we had a mobile voting station and it was moved because of COVID. It was considered unsafe. And now I know that many of the voters have to go quite a long way in order to go and vote, and that puts them off. And I've seen how the numbers have dropped of people voting because they just cannot be bothered. Even if they're voting Labour or Tory or whatever, they just cannot be bothered to go so far. And when they say we had a voting station on our doorstep and now we're going nearly a mile away, and if they're old and infirm and cannot do that, they just won't do it. So I certainly support this proposal, and I look forward to seeing this being implemented next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chopra. Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just 3 points. To be honest, there's been some very warm derision of those who oppose this particular scheme. To be honest, I do not oppose experimenting on how to improve turnout in elections. In fact, I've studied how to improve turnout in elections on a number of different occasions. And let me be quite clear, this is not the way to do it, and this is not the place to do it. Number 1, in terms of how do you get people to vote, complexity is a major problem. We might all think it's really easy to go out on there and put little cross, etc. But actually complexity deters a vast number of people in this borough from elections. They need to know where they are going to vote. They don't want additional places. They want to know where their place is so that they can go to it and cast their vote. So actually, if you're going to do it 2 days, same places, I'd be very, very happy with it. If you're going to put more information into their hands that told them out where and when or how and what, I'd also be supportive of that. But to be honest, that's not what you're doing. The other thing that absolutely would be helpful is the one thing that's actually reduced turnout recently, which is dealing with voter ID. And I'm not saying scrap it. I'm saying give people better access to it, because it's really bloody hard trying to fill in that form if you try and do it online. It's an absolutely murderous system. So in terms of complexity, that's why this scheme isn't a good idea. In terms of effectiveness, this scheme is not the good idea either. Everybody knows, because actually, Councillor Bruce, as I think you do too, there is one clear winner from all previous voting trials, and that is all postal voting. It vastly, vastly increases turnout, but you're not proposing that. You're proposing a system which is untried in Nottingham, complicates things, does not guarantee any additional turnout whatsoever. And actually, if you want young people to be voting, the other thing you could do is have internet voting. And that's not what's being suggested in that scheme. So that's 4 different things you could do, all of which have got absolute pedigree in terms of improving turnout. But the third area that we ought to be concerned about too is the one that everyone was laughing about, was the issue of voting fraud. Yes, you're quite right. Voting fraud is infinitesimal small. But guess what? The international observers of elections in the UK have
20 seconds, Councillor
identified
Dennison.
clearly that the biggest problem in terms of election fraud is undue influence on voters. And if you make it easier for people to unduly influence them, you will have greater fraud. Not that you could spot so easily, but you'll have it.
Thank you, Councillor Dennison.
And I'll leave it at that. But the other point is that,
Thank you,
that
Councillor
we have
Dennison.
not got
Thank you,
got a
Councillor
record on
Dennison.
that in this borough.
So I'm going to take one final speaker and then go to Councillor Rajawat. Councillor Giles.
Thank you very much. I hadn't actually intended to speak on this, but I think there's a lot of interesting topics that have been raised today. And I think Councillor Dennison did say a lot of what I had intended to say, but I think what's very interesting is the point raised by Councillor Gerrell. And it just reminded me of that time on election day 2022 when we were just so concerned by the lack of voter turnout. I think there was something at 13% recorded in one ward. And I was just taking a quick look, and it just appears that in any ward where Labour is representing, turnout was actually 10% less, more or less, on average, than in the Chiswick wards, which I think probably shows the importance of having a democratic and options for democracy, but a democratic challenge to take place across Hounslow. And I think this will be very interesting over the next 9 months, and the role of having varied political discourse and options. The other point I was thinking is that I picked up was, if it's a pilot, it will need time to work. That was a quote, I think, more or less. But if it's a pilot, it's supposedly for a fixed term. So will we have the time to create the behavioural change that's needed? We already have a lot of mechanisms in order that are there to help people who cannot vote on voting day. We've got postal votes, as mentioned. We've also got proxy votes, which you can actually register for on the day of election and do it digitally if you're unable to do this. I did it myself back in 2016 or something, when I was still registered in the borough but was living elsewhere. And there's very little mention of electronic voting within this. I do question the whole idea about some of these changes. It's worth noting that in our first London mayoral elections after Brexit, many Irish citizens were not allowed to vote, even though it is one of their rights that was agreed as part of the independence negotiations back in the 1920s. And many Irish people were not able to, because they were turning up with their Irish passports or their Irish driving cards, license cards, but because the electoral officers are at the polling stations didn't recognise that they had a right that predated Brexit,
20
they
seconds,
were turned
Councillor
around.
Giles.
So it does it does raise a lot of these questions to me about the validity of how we're going to, and whether it's actually going to increase voter turnout. And I think it's our responsibility to encourage everybody we know who can vote to vote however which way they please to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Councillor Rajawat, to sum up, please.
Very interesting debate. I reiterate, it's an application. We may not even get it. So fantastic debate. Thank you very much. I mean, to me, it does highlight some points. I mean, the absolute fear from the Tories about electoral oblivion, having introduced the ID cards, they're now worried about expanding the franchise to disadvantage them. It's not the voting system that will disadvantage you, it's reform. So you can deal with that yourselves. To my dear friend, the absent member from Heston East, conspiracy theories all you like. Unfortunately, there is no evidence to suggest anything that you said is true. You use the example of Canada. We are not Canada, we're the UK. And actually, the cases here are very, very low. But again, it is an application. We may not get it. And so let's put in the application, see what happens, look at the options. I firmly believe that we should be allowing people every opportunity to vote and take part in our democratic process. If they choose not to Councillor Denison's point, then so be it. That's life. But if we are giving every opportunity to our residents to take part, it's not about this party or that party. It is about people exercising their right. And I think that is a principle from the debate that we all agree with. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rajawat. Now we'll move to the vote. Can I ask all those in favour to raise their hands? All those against to raise their hands? And any abstentions? The vote is therefore carried. Thank you. Now moving on to agenda item 10, appointments to other committees, which is a standing item on our agenda. May I draw members' attention to the nominations on the agenda and or in the supplementary agenda pages. These reflect the new appointment of a councillor. Are there any other nominations? Thank you. Can I ask members to agree the nominations? Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 11, decisions taken under urgent arrangements. Please note the report that there are no matters deemed urgent. Thank you. Now we move on to our motions. Our first motion under agenda item 12, which is members can also observe the supplementary agenda that has an amendment to this motion having been proposed. So I now invite Councillor Max Mosley to propose the motion. Councillor Mosley, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are a few things in this country that unite us quite like the National Health Service. It is loved universally and it stands as proof of what we can achieve. Born from the rubble of war, but it was shaped by ambition and ingenuity. It created a public health service free at the point of use, and its creation is a once-in-a-generational achievement. But while this once revolutionary concept is now universally agreed upon, funding and managing our NHS has yet to achieve the same level of consensus. Since its creation, there has been an all too predictable cycle of the Conservative Party who voted against its creation, underinvesting in the NHS, resulting in rising waiting lists, which is left to the Labour Party to fix to restore funding, which sees those same waiting lists fall. At the end of 14 years of neglect, waiting lists were at record levels, doubling even before the pandemic struck. Britain was left undefended in the face of the biggest health crisis in living memory. And compared to our peer nations like Germany, Denmark, and Canada, avoidable deaths rose to their highest levels and life expectancy fell to the lowest. And as the number of long-term sick grew, so did economic stagnation. This was not just a health failure, it was an economic failure. And so in 2024, the British people turned yet again to the Labour Party to fix this issue. The result, waiting lists are falling, down by over 260,000. Just last week, we saw the news of 5.2 million extra NHS appointments across the country, including 107,000 right here in our local trust. GPs, the front door to the NHS, are delivering 7 million extra appointments year on year, with 117,853 of those here in Hounslow. Yes, can confirm. A rise of 6% is what I was looking for. Supported by council-backed projects like the new Chiswick Health Centre and central government investing in refurbishing across our local GP practices. But, Madam Mayor, there is a problem. This time, the Labour government cannot simply fix the problems caused by Tory neglect with restored funding alone. Because not only did this government inherit broken public services, but also broken public finances as a result of Liz Truss's mini-budget and a broken economy after a decade of austerity. Politicians, including us in this chamber, cannot fix the NHS with just new money. We are facing our own generational challenge, just like those faced before us. Progress will require us to think smarter about how we can care for the sick and vulnerable. That new smart thinking comes in the form of preventative care. That is why I am so passionate about this new primary healthcare pilot at Maswell Park at the heart of Hounslow practices. It doesn't ask for endless new resources. The £125,000 one-off cost comes from the borough-based partnership, money already in the system. What it does is bring in health and social care teams together, instead of bouncing frail and vulnerable residents from one referral to another, something I know myself with my own grandmother. It will build one path of care around the person, not the bureaucracy. That means better outcomes for residents and lower costs for the system. When you stop conditions from deteriorating, you stop costs from spiraling. This is part of the 10-year plan, shifting from hospital-based crisis care to preventative community-based support. And that's the common thread running through all the motions tonight: early intervention, joined-up care, fairer starts for our children, stronger support for disadvantaged communities, and a better service for our most frail and vulnerable. Doctors know the difference between treating symptoms and treating sickness. They know acting early matters. Governing should be no different. If we intervene sooner with compassion and ambition, just like those who created the NHS, we cut future costs, and that is what this motion is about. So to those who will attack this on the grounds of cost, let's be crystal clear. Compassion and cost cutting are not opposites. When you govern responsibly, they are one and the same. The NHS is being fixed, and it is Labour that is doing the fixing once again. Colleagues, I commend this motion to you for better care, for healthier lives, and a future where the NHS once again lives up to its founding promise. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Mosley. Councillor Bath, can I ask you to second?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to second this motion, and I will reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Now we come to the proposed amendment, which members can find in the supplementary agenda. Can I ask Councillor Thompson to introduce and speak for 5 minutes?
Thank you, and I'm sorry I'm keeping you awake, colleagues over there, but I'll do my best. Look, we actually aren't going to vote against this, and what we're proposing is just to add. I think one of the reasons why politics is broken is that, frankly, sometimes we just talk a lot of rubbish, and what we put before people does not ring true. This motion is only telling half the story. Yes, there are improvements. Yes, there have to be improvements, but it doesn't ring true for residents who struggle, like many of us do, to find a GP's appointment still. And that's not because of, well, I'll put that in a second, residents in Hounslow who really can't find an NHS dentist. So there are other aspects, that's what I'm trying to say in my little incoherent way. There are other aspects that this motion could perhaps mention. So yeah, let's take GPs. The motion does talk about the increase in appointments. That's great. But what it fails to mention is the reduction of thousands of practices over the last 8 years. And yeah, that's under the previous government, but that's because of structural changes and a range of things. You know, the average GP in Hounslow is now looking after 2,200 patients, and it used to be just over 2,000. They don't have much time. You know, we tried to go with my daughter recently. It's like 3 weeks in the future once she got through the online system and all the rest of it. We need to take action. The government needs to take action. We in Hounslow need to take action. Yes, the Chiswick health centre is a great development. It'd be nice if any Chiswick councillors had actually been invited to the opening, but that's another issue. But we need new models, otherwise that model that you spoke about, Maswell Park and stuff, is under threat. Dentistry, nothing in dentistry about here, but we now have a two-tier system where those who can go private and everybody else suffers in pain, or they go to put pressure on A&E. And then, of course, the recurring issue, and I'll be honest that no government has ever really got round to suggesting, which is we have to sort out adult social care. And I'm sure on that, no one in this room will disagree. Yes, the motion talks about pilots and projects, but there is a harder truth. Until we sort that out, we are going to have people stuck in hospitals and taking up space, and they really should be elsewhere. And that puts more pressure on the health service, and waiting lists go up. So unless all parties, I'll say this honestly, unless all parties sensibly tackle that issue,
20
we ain't
seconds,
going
councillor
anywhere.
Thompson.
So we must, I think, residents do want to know the truth. They know what it's like to try and book a GP, get a dentist, wait for social care. They don't want a motion that only gives them half the story in a very political, partisan way. We are trying to give you the full story. We all support
Thank you,
it anyway.
Councillor
How
Thompson.
could we not? But it could be better.
Apologies, councillor Thompson. I was looking at the wrong clock. You have another 2 minutes if you want it. Thank you. Councillor Vidoff, can I ask you to second, please?
May I have those minutes? Madam Mayor, thank you. The NHS used to be the envy of the world. 3 years ago, Labour's then Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, said, "What you will not hear me saying is that the NHS is the envy of the world. We know it's not true, patients know it's not true, staff know it's not true, and politicians know it's not true. Yet we all want it to be true." I remember watching the 2007 BBC documentaries, Can Jerry Robinson Fix the NHS? Agreeing with him, a well-known Labour donor. His focus was putting patients first. The principle of a universal NHS, free at the point of use, others have said it, transcends party politics, supported enthusiastically by all, whether left, right, or in the moderate middle. We want to be proud of it. I'd like to offer one case study looking at waste. Wasted resources, wasted time, wasted appointments, and wasted money. Not new money. It's my experience earlier this year. I'd recently had an X-ray in one of our local hospitals. Not long afterwards, at A&E at another local hospital, I was told I needed an X-ray. Knowing that nothing new would be revealed, I explained, suggesting an MRI scan. With no information sharing between the two hospitals, the consultant said an X-ray would be done first, as it was cheaper. All it revealed was that I needed an MRI scan. The orthopaedic consultant sent me home with 3 boxes of injections, a sharps bin, and on crutches. At a follow-up appointment with another orthopaedic consultant, I was told I should never have taken the jabs. I tried to return the crutches, but that hospital doesn't take them back. Hospitals in other areas charge patients who do not return them. And the NHS England website says that if just 2 out of every 5 walking aids were returned, the average hospital could save up to £46,000 a year. Not new money. I was sent to a physiotherapist for her rehabilitation advice. He recommended exercises and booked me into a class. On arriving, I was surprised to be the only person waiting. I'd been booked into a duplicate advice appointment. There were no classes. So how much did I cost the NHS unnecessarily? X-ray, £90. Injections, £91. Sharps box, £3. Crutches, £20. Duplicate physio appointment, £60. That's £264, one patient, one incident. Multiply that by tens of thousands of patients across the NHS, and we're talking millions lost that could have been spent on care, and that's not new money. This says nothing about the kindness I experienced at A&E and later. At times, it moved me to tears. But good care must be supported by efficiency. This amendment is about improving the national institution we all need. It seeks to make it better through positive actions that will, if implemented, make us all immensely proud and make the NHS the envy of the world again. I urge everyone to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Bidoff. Councillor Mosley, can I ask if you accept the amendment?
No. Thank you. I mean, I want to start by thanking the Conservatives opposite.
Hang on a minute. Can I just... Whoa there. I like your enthusiasm. But as you haven't accepted the motion, then we will open it for debate. Can I remind members that they can only speak once and you'll be limited to 3 minutes? Oh, sorry, on the amendment. So this is not on the motion, this is purely on the amendment. Okay. Oh, Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The National Health Service is my baby because I was actually born pretty well at the same time the National Health Service was started. So I've lived for most of my life with the National Health Service. The issues for me, as I get older, are quite simply not the question of care, which is generally excellent and the high value, but it's the question of the nature of how rehabilitation takes place. And that is the Achilles heel of the National Health Service. We don't do enough to help with rehabilitation, and the concept of convalescence is now lost to the National Health Service. There are very few convalescent homes available in England, and we now know that bed blocking takes place, and we have people in Hounslow social welfare embedded into hospitals around the borough and outside, trying to help the hospitals move people back into secure locations where they can be rehabilitated or at least given some care. And we discovered during COVID-19 how difficult that was and how many mistakes were made at that time. Not because people made mistakes deliberately, but because faced with COVID-19, people didn't know quite what to do. And we're still paying the penalty of that, as you can see from the waiting lists and all the other stuff that's going on. I'd like to put a plea to everybody to put pressure on the NHS to establish rehabilitation and care and convalescence as part of a natural process of the overall care you get from a hospital. My most recent experience was as follows. Operation, procedure, and then 7 weeks later contacted by the hospital's physiotherapy department to take part in some physical therapy, which was meant to actually establish what I was actually doing wrong with my walking. So 7 weeks. 7 weeks to do what? The majority of people would be sitting at home wondering when they're going to be contacted by the physiotherapy team. That's not good enough. It's not good enough for any civilized society to have people encumbered by that. In my case, there was no encumbrance. But I am fortunate.
20 seconds, Councillor McGregor.
And 20 seconds is not enough for me to tell you all the things I need to say about the NHS, because I'm a great supporter, because it takes away anxiety, it takes away concern that you will not get treated. Don't go down the American line, please. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor
I
McGregor.
support the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It will be no surprise to you that I won't be supporting the amendment. I wanted to really outline why. Because I feel that there are quite a lot of mistruths in there or inaccuracies. So, for example, the amendment says to recognise the ongoing pressures that residents face in accessing GP hospitals and NHS dentistry, to call for urgent action. I think our original motion actually outlines the success that we've actually made in this in terms of bringing down GP appointments and access locally. But I actually wanted to touch on the adult social care part of the amendment, because obviously I'm the cabinet member for adult social care, although obviously all adult social care services across the country face challenges, but I wanted to actually point out that it is not true that there are weaknesses in our adult social care service in Hounslow. Quite the opposite, actually. We accept that there are always challenges in terms of costs. So I'll give you an example. In May 2024, we were inspected by the Care Quality Commission, and we were rated, our adult social services were rated as good, and we were very good in terms of we were the first ones to be inspected in the country, and there were some very good findings of that. Of course, we know there are challenges, and we developed an improvement plan. We also, in terms of our first Care Act assessments, we've improved those to just 17 days in the last year. We know that when we do a Care Act assessment, it's important that we put the care services in place very quickly, and we make sure that we do that. But in terms of bed blocking, I actually wanted to show some really positive work that we've done in Hounslow. So, for example, the Hounslow has supported the shift from hospital to community, partnered with West Middlesex Hospital to actually pilot a very groundbreaking pilot project, which helped actually free up beds. So those people that are in hospital, that are ready to be discharged, but don't have the support at home. And we were able to free up many beds in just 3 months, resulting at a saving of £227,000 as outlined in the motion. So it's really
20
about
seconds, Councillor Bath.
supporting other hospitals, rather the opposite. So I don't agree with the amendment because it seems to suggest that some of our services locally are failing in terms of adult social care. I do agree we need a massive kind of review of adult social care, and the government has agreed to do that with the with their
Thank
review.
you,
But
Councillor
yeah,
Bath.
thank you.
Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The very present member for Heston East will throw back at the Labour Party that Canada has nothing to do with the National Health Service. And that's why I shall be supporting this amendment, because it's a common sense amendment and it brings out some of the deficiencies that actually exist within the National Health Service. And in some fairness, successive governments, whatever political colouring, have not invested enough in the National Health Service, not in terms of the buildings, not in terms of the investment into doctors, not in terms of the investment into nurses, more qualified nurses, more qualified doctors. It was this Labour government of past that put the PFIs in. And now those hospitals and those schools are falling to bits. That increases the pressure on the National Health Service. And it's this National Health Service which has to deal with all those past mistakes. And that, I'm afraid, nobody's addressing. I would like to see a lot more money going into the National Health Service. We are unique in this world. It was a Labour government that gave. Why is it that the Labour government currently is not seeing this? They're just tinkering around the edges, not doing enough. And guess what? The appointments for doctors are still the same. I still have to wait 4, 5, 6 weeks to see my GP. What is going on? What is going on? That's why I'm going to be supporting this amendment, because I think it has got some common sense ideas, and let's see where it goes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mann.
Madam Mayor, a point of order. As the opposition largely agree with the substantive motion, it's just the amendment we're debating, and we've got a lot left on the agenda. Could I move that the question now be put on the amendment, please?
What's the constitutional process, please?
So I think what Councillor Stroud-Turp is asking is we won't get much through any more of the agenda if we continue the debate. And there doesn't seem to be a massive amount that's going to be changed by any further debate, because I think we've had a healthy debate from my right-hand side. So I'm going to agree to now put the vote to whether or not the amendment is accepted.
Madam Mayor, once that constitutional matter properly raised?
Oh, sorry. I think in answer to your question, technically no, probably it wasn't, because you haven't got a specific number that it's related to, section it's related to. However, it is within my gift to say that yes, I accept the point that actually I think we've had sufficient debate on the amendment, and so I'm going to move to the vote on the amendment. So all those in favour of accepting the amendment, please raise your hand. All those against accepting the amendment? Any abstentions? Thank you. Then therefore we now move to the debate on the motion.
Let's go to the vote. Let's go to the vote.
Kill the vote. Yeah.
Okay, do you want to do that? I'll do it under then Max can have his sum up. Yeah, Madam Mayor, just to satisfy Councillor McGregor, 13.12. We can end the debate on that. I'll therefore move that the question now be put on the substantive motion, notwithstanding that obviously Councillor Mosley has the right to sum up at the end before the question is put.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you both. Give me 1 minute.
Put your hand up.
Okay, yeah, in my judgment, yes, we have had a sufficient debate on both the motion because that was part of the debate on the amendment. So I'm going to move to Councillor Mosley to sum up.
Thank you. Forgive my eagerness earlier. I've been wanting to say this to Tories for quite some time. So, thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me just start by thanking the Conservatives opposite for giving such a comprehensive takedown of their 14 years in government. But let's just briefly focus on the amendment, sorry, not the amendment, but the areas where we do actually agree. First, that residents in Hounslow do indeed still face long waits for access to GPs, hospitals, and particularly NHS dentists. Second, that the number of open and active GP practices in England has fallen by over 1,000 in the past 8 years. But as we've heard today, they call on this government to raise funding, but more than the £29 billion this Labour government has already invested in our NHS. So I would like to just say that I would have loved to have seen these big state Conservatives when they were in office, but alas, maybe one day. They call on the council to work constructively with the government, NHS partners and local residents to ensure the NHS is properly fit for the future. That is exactly what we are doing with these two pilots covered by the motion, working with the borough-based partnerships, partnering with patient representatives and the voluntary sector. After 14 years, it has been a difficult legacy for this government and this council to deal with. Labour is clearing up the Tory mess, but at least these Tories opposite have had the good grace to acknowledge the mess that they made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mosley. We now move to the vote. Can I ask all those in favour of accepting the motion to raise your hand? All those against to raise your hand? And any abstentions? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, once again, point of order, and once again to keep Councillor McGregor happy, this is 8.2 of the Council's Constitution. I fear we're going to start running out of time fairly shortly. We have 3 hours from the beginning of the meeting. The meeting started at 7:30. It's now 10 o'clock. There's still 2 more motions to go. Could I move that we suspend standing orders until the close of business, please?
I'll second that.
Yes. We've therefore moved to agenda item 13. Oh, sorry. The outcome of the vote then was that the motion is passed. Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought we didn't have to do that. Oh, okay. Then in that case, can we please vote on whether or not we remove standing orders? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. In that case, apologies. We move to item 13, which is the second motion can be found at agenda item 13. Members also observe from the supplementary agenda that there is an amendment to this motion being proposed. I now invite Councillor Sharma to propose the motion. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proud to be proposing this motion tonight, resolving to build a fairer, more equal Hounslow. And I'd like to start by asking what we think should be the responsibilities of local government. After the local elections last May, the leader of Reform UK made a clear threat against the staff of those councils his party had taken control of. He said anyone working on DEI should look for another job. Here in the UK, we have a thing called Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, or EDI for short. DEI is the American term. In copying his mate Trump's anti-equality rhetoric, he didn't even bother to use the British name for it. So you may ask, what is EDI? Well, here in Hounslow, we have our own EDI strategy, which aims to create equality by place, equality by group, and equality by employer. Equality by place means recognising that although talent is distributed evenly across our borough, opportunities are not. We all know that there is inequality from one part of our borough to the next. Sometimes you only have to cross the road to see it. That's why the council has identified 30 equality opportunity areas and 10 EOA clusters, which range from Gunsbury Park in the east to Bedfont in the west. These have been the focus of our investment, tackling economic, education and health inequalities. We've used our Thriving Communities Fund to invest particularly in those areas. Last year, an estimated 185,000 residents are thought to have benefited, with 100% of the funded projects reaching their desired outcomes. One of the resolutions tonight is to turn each of our 11 libraries into a community hub that will help vulnerable residents access support. In the coming year, we must go further in these areas to tackle inequality by place, focusing particularly on developing better housing and connecting communities with transport. The second pillar is to establish equality by group. There isn't time tonight to cover every single group supported by our EDI strategy, whether that's supporting the elderly, supporting people living with a disability, supporting those with mental health conditions, ethnic minorities, or the LGBT plus community. So I'll focus on what EDI means for us women. The council is supporting women by introducing a Women and Girls Wellbeing Hub and running a women's jobs fair in Feltham. Of the 425 female residents who registered with Work Hounslow Service, 59% have gained employment, which I think is fantastic. We've worked with the West London Breast Screening Service to encourage more women to get screened. We've launched a breastfeeding support service, which makes it easier for women to access support and equipment. And we've introduced our Violence Against Women and Girls plan, working with the police to stamp out gender-based violence and with organisations like SheWise. If you're talking about protecting our women and girls, then EDI is how you do it. Finally, our third pillar, equality as an employer, means doing our best to eradicate inequality within our workplace. It means ending the gender pay gap. It means being a living wage employer. It means offering apprenticeships and work experience to those with difficult backgrounds. It means treating people fairly and with respect. I'm bringing this motion tonight because I want to give full council the chance to reject the rhetoric of hatred, conspiracy and division. Let us not forget, behind every statistic, there is a human story. There are families striving for a better future, children dreaming of opportunities, and individuals yearning for a life free from discrimination. This motion is more than just a strategy. It's a beacon of hope for every resident of Hounslow. Together, we can create a borough where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered. Let us stand united in our commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion, and build a Hounslow where every person, regardless of their background, can thrive. Now, if that's not a job of politics and of the council, I don't know what is.
Thank you, Councillor Sharma. Can I invite Councillor Hira Dillon for his first speech to second the motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proud to second this motion because I have seen firsthand what a difference these policies can make. Councillor Sharma talked about the difference our equality opportunity areas are making. I want to talk about the difference they are making to my residents. North Cranford and North Hyde is an equality opportunity area that is on the border of my ward. It was identified because of high levels of deprivation and the low level of opportunities available to residents. That's why we are here to change. The equality opportunity area approach has helped support struggling families. The council has worked with Cranford Community College, A2 Dominion, and the Felix Project to deliver surplus food during the school holidays. It has provided a place to play. The council launched the new Beavers Children's Centre and worked with Brentford FC Community Sport Trust to launch a new play zone in Brevzon. It has meant investing in young people's futures. The council has invested nearly £271,000 to deliver a new media studio at Cranford Community College. It means upskilling 25% of those who attended the council's Green Skills boot camps came from North Hyde and North Cranford. It has helped to launch careers. The fortnightly drop-in service at Meadowbank offers job matching, CV help, and one-to-one careers advice. So far, we have helped 502 people achieve qualifications. It has also helped residents access housing, health and financial advice, and sport. Just next month, this Labour administration will open the new Meadowbank Community Hub and Library. This will be a place where residents can access sport, learn new skills, and discover new careers and opportunities.
20
It will
seconds,
be a place
Councillor Dillon.
for families to enjoy and for children to discover the joy of reading. In Cranford, just like the other opportunity areas, we need to do more, not less, helping people to realize their potential, removing the barriers that stand in their way. That's why I joined the Labour Party. That's why I stood to represent the people of Cranford. And that's why I'm proud to be supporting this motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Dillon. We now come to the proposed amendment, which members can find in the supplementary agenda. I invite Councillor Gabriella Giles to introduce. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate Brentford on their 4-2 win against Aston Villa in the Carabao Cup today. So they won on penalties, so that's a great start to the rest of their campaign. So back to the motion and my amendment. So in reading the original motion, I wondered where our original proposers thought we were, or to whom this motion should be addressed. And as we've heard tonight, it's very clear that Labour, especially after the election in Cranford, are worried about reform. As we've heard multiple times in this chamber, not just tonight, but I have certainly heard that Hounslow is proud to be a diverse and culturally rich borough quite a few times since I was first elected in 2018. To be clear and to remind everyone here, last time I checked, the United Kingdom is not a 51st state of the United States, and I thank our lucky stars for that, as much as that film with Samuel L. Jackson may have had us believe. Nor are we, or should we ever be, tolerant of racism, of bigotry. I understand that we all recognise that tolerance and respect are the foundation of any good relationship, as is open discourse and recognition that none of us is perfect, and that regardless of gender, ethnicity, disability, income, birthplace, or other identifying characteristic that such as where you live or work, we should all have access to the same opportunities. And we have the freedom of choice to decide how we use these. Therefore, that members of this current administration think it is a good use of council business for us to debate a motion that does not recognise our legal duties under the Equality Act 2010. And in fact, we should be seeking to demonstrate and showcase the opportunity of social mobility that can come about as a result of good understanding of what communities want and need. And I'm really glad that the speeches that we've heard this evening have done a huge amount to highlight some of those works that have been done. And just to make a little point here, I really struggle sometimes with some of this, because yesterday marked with the anniversary of Central American Independence Day, it marked the start of Latin American Heritage Month. And I do find motions like this somewhat incomplete, should we say, from an administration that at the last term, this administration refused to recognise Latin American as an ethnicity. In that debate, the then cabinet member for social inclusion stated that she wouldn't be supporting the motion because, and I quote, "our categories are taken directly from the census category of the ONS," but didn't mention the campaign in the UK to have and to recognise Latin American as an ethnicity on the census. And then she proceeded to list the variety of nationalities that we have in the borough, but was therefore intentionally misdirecting those present about the purpose of what we were trying to do, in the fact that we were trying to ensure that all people are recognised for what they need, for what they are, and for who they are. And the fact that just because they aren't counted doesn't necessarily mean they don't matter. And that is the purpose of this motion, is to make sure that everybody, regardless of whether they're counted or not, do matter. And so with that said, and that's kind of just a point that's been bugging me for like the last 5 years, but with that said, our amendments only strengthen our united belief that everyone in this borough should be treated fairly and equally. And that is why we've made these additions to the motion. And I would really appreciate it if we didn't just play party politics with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Can I ask Councillor Alan Joseph to second, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am pleased to second this amendment because I know from my own ward in west of the borough, Feltham and Eston, how important equality and fairness are to our residents and how real the challenges of integration can be. Let me start by recognizing the good intentions behind Hunslow's equality, diversity, and inclusion strategy. Removing barriers to opportunity is something we all support. But as I meet families, shopkeepers, and community groups across Feltham and Eston, one message keeps coming back. Support must be fair and felt everywhere. Too often, residents outside the officially designated equality opportunity area ask where their share is. Whether you live in Onslow Heath, Feltham North, or along the eastern border, you should not feel like an afterthought. Our amendments make that point clearly. We welcome investment in skills, hubs, and community groups, but it cannot be limited to zones drawn on a map. Need does not stop at a ward boundary. We also insist on results that matter. Residents expect progress they can see, better housing, improved education, stronger health outcomes, real chances to find and keep good jobs. What they do not need are glossy reports or slogans that make good headlines but little difference on the ground. In Feltham and Eston, we see the pressures every day. Overcrowded housing, long wait for GP appointments, and young people looking for apprenticeships. These are the measures of success. Our amendment keeps Onslow on the right side of the law. It reminds the council that statutory equality duties cannot be met by birds alone, and that fairness means every neighborhood counts. This is not about cutting support, it is about making it count across the whole borough, in every community, for every resident. I urge the chamber to back our amendment and show that equality is not just a policy area, but a lived reality for everyone in Onslow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Councillor Sharma, can I ask whether you accept the amendment?
No.
In that case, we will move to a debate on the amendment. I will start with Councillor Mashisho.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do believe that our amendment is substantive and it covers many of the things that we have already debated in this chamber in the past. In 2023, there was a paper produced, the Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities, where 74 recommendations were announced by Lord Sewell. And I think some members here remember debating those disparities and those recommendations about having a diverse workforce, having an inclusive community, and having an equal society. So I welcome the suggestion from Councillor earlier, but I think the recommendation is a lot more powerful and a lot more substantive, as I've said. The first thing I would say is equalities can start in so many different ways. But for me, the equality starts with education, because education is the silver bullet for opportunity. And I think I speak for Councillor, I support Councillor Chaudhry, who made her announcement at the beginning of this debate, of this meeting this tonight, where she mentioned the performance of Hounslow schools that is, again, above the average in England. That's where opportunities start. That's where our equal opportunities start. But it also, behind those figures, behind that data, is families. Equality starts by us supporting the families of those children at home to make sure that they instill the discipline and the wherewithal for them to pursue their whatever ambitions they have. But when we talk about inclusivity, I think the borough has a duty to lead by example. And when we look at some of the things that this borough has done in terms of inclusivity, they have not led by example. First case in point is the Chiswick Health Centre that just opened a few days ago. Where were the Conservative local councillors of that ward? Why were they not invited? You call that inclusive? You're supposed to lead
20
by
seconds,
example.
Councillor Mushisho.
Where, if you look at the Hounslow matters, where are some of the work that Conservative councillors are doing in the east of the borough? Where is the inclusivity in that? If you are going to talk about inclusivity, you must lead
Thank you,
by
Councillor Mushisho.
example, and you're failing at that.
Thank you, Councillor Mushisho. Councillor Ajma Gariwal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Cool, I'm shaking. Oh. Do you know what? If this motion had been read and understood, we wouldn't have this amendment. Councillor Sharma, it's a fantastic motion, but shame they didn't understand it. Now, Madam Mayor, I think it's important to acknowledge the Tories' deliberately disingenuous misinterpretation of our EDI strategy. They talk about wanting investment decisions to be based on need across the whole borough, not only in selected opportunity areas. The inequality opportunity areas are those that have been identified as being in greater need of investment. They span the whole of our borough from east to west, but they are not the only places where the council spends money. The Tories talk about the need to see improvements in housing, education, health, and employment. So let's look at our EDI strategy, how it's helped deliver that. So the progress we've made in housing. We've given residents a home for life, providing stability and security for our residents. Hounslow Council now offers secure lifetime tenancies for all its council tenants. This will give social housing tenants the chance to put down roots, establishing family and job security. We've invested £362 million to improve our council estates. Some fall within these equality opportunity areas, others do not. We said we would build more homes and protect those with additional needs. Back in April, the council opened 12 new accessible and adaptable homes on Isleworth South Street. Let's go to education. As Councillor Chaudhry said, yep, fantastic results. Our schools are all ranked good or outstanding. Our GCSE and A-level results are far higher than the national average. and that's the same across the borough. But as part of our EDI strategy, we identified issues around children from the Ivy Bridge estate being unable to get to school in the mornings. That's why we lobbied TfL to introduce a bus link with Borough Academy. That is the kind of common sense, interventions we are talking about. In health, as we've discussed, and as you're so disappointed that you weren't at the opening of the development of the new health practice, which we helped fund in Chiswick. That is not an equality opportunity area. There's a Waitrose around the corner, you know, about 50 yards from there.
20 seconds, Councillor Garrywell.
But it was an area identified as being in need of greater primary care. However, so I'm running out of time. Okay, let's look at employment quickly. So with our youth skills and employment guarantee, in the first 3 years, we delivered 539 work placements with a further 1,357 students and 142 teachers learning about the world of work through activities co-designed and delivered with employees. That's what's called ADI. You're trying to paint some kind EDI at some sort of diet reform, but it's just like reform when it comes to delivering better housing, education, health and employment. They simply don't have a clue. So I won't be supporting this amendment.
Councillor Assim. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I must say that I am deeply disappointed with this Conservatives amendment to otherwise what was a brilliant motion by my colleague. At a time when this motion should bring us together in solidarity, they've chosen division. And for them to sneer about posturing and culture wars is frankly laughable, given that their own Shadow Justice Secretary spent the summer climbing lampposts, draping flags, and whipping up endearing crowds outside asylum hotels. That's not leadership, that's theatre, that's posturing in its purest, ugliest form. This is the same person who, as Immigration Minister, oversaw the explosion of asylum hotels in the first place. They create the crisis, then they milk it for headlines. Let me be absolutely clear. I am proud of the St. George's Cross and the Union Jack. They are my flags too. But I will never let the Tories hijack them to divide communities. And let us not forget who we're dealing with. This is the party of Enoch Powell, the party of the Smethwick slogan, the party that will forever be remembered for leaving us with legacies such as the Windrush scandal, the hostile environment policy, Boris Johnson's letterbox insults, and Section 28. They can dress it up however they like, but we see them clearly. Councillor Assim, can I ask you to address the motion, please? Okay. It's still the same old Tories and the same old tricks, and we're not buying it. That's why I'm against this motion.
Councillor Bidoff.
There seem to be two approaches to how matters can be conducted in this chamber, and I would like a bit more balance, please, having been interrupted myself sooner than Councillor Assim was.
Can I just clarify, Councillor Bidoff? I think I'm being very fair to both sides. If you would like to raise a complaint about me, you're more than welcome.
It's a question of how much time people are given. From my perspective, EDI policies are not so narrow as in your motion. They need to be broader, and there are loads of different ways of approaching opportunity areas of need. It's a different way of looking at it from our perspective. So EDI policies need to apply across many policy areas. In Chiswick, there's a notable absence, and this is not a rant about the cycle lane. This is a very serious issue. A notable absence of an EDI approach in Chiswick with a very close by community of people who are blind or partially sighted and who consider Chiswick their local shopping area. The floating bus stops ignore their needs and have forced them away from Chiswick. This applies to Brentford too, where the discriminatory floating bus stop there has been criticised in the Houses of Parliament. This is about equality, diversity and inclusion. Further, in both Chiswick and Brentford, a significant proportion of the community is older and living in council sheltered accommodation or in private. They feel excluded from Chiswick, fearful of being hurt, as several have been, crossing Chiswick High Road, or trying to get on and off a bus. For both of these groups, and this is the point, older people and visually impaired people, the council still does not consult their local representative groups as standard. Age Concern Chiswick is still not being consulted. The National Federation of the Blind of the UK, locally based, is still not being consulted. Two significant groups are being excluded from the council's EDI approach. I would like, and I have asked this before, and it really does need to be done. I would like to add one more important point, and that is to praise the work of Celia Golden, who leads the council's EDI strategy, and her team. Celia has for years approached her role creatively and got maximum impact from her working hours. I worry that her value is being diluted by a move towards holding events for their headlines rather than their effect on the community. I attended an event recently.
20 seconds, Councillor Biddulph.
Thank you. For people with disabilities or special needs, with many people leaving part way through, as they had come to find out about help and support available to them and instead listened to ideologically driven propaganda. It was brilliantly organised by Celia and her team, but its focus was misdirected for political purposes. We must focus resources on practical and measurable outcomes, as our amendment says.
Thank you, Councillor
that
Biddulph.
directly improve residents' lives, not on political plastering.
No, that's fine. Can I just make a point to address the concern that you just raised? The Conservative group make up about a sixth of the council elected members, and I'm giving you about 40% of the airtime. So I would rather you didn't. Madam Mayor,
Sorry,
not
Madam
Mr. Mayor.
but that wasn't the point I was making. It was about the way in which we are allowed to speak when we're speaking and how, if we're interrupted.
I think it's worth pointing out, Madam Mayor, that being a Conservative councillor is not a protected characteristic.
Councillor Biddulph, if you have a complaint to make about me, please direct it to the monitoring officer. Thank you. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll first address the amendment as has been written. A lot of the speeches from the Conservative group have been about all kinds of other things, don't appear to be on the amendment at all. Looking very clearly at what the amendment seems to be saying is this thing about we need to make sure that everyone benefits from the EDI investment, not just those in designated zones. There is no implication in our EDI strategy, or indeed in the motion that's been put forward tonight, that only people in designated zones will benefit from investment from EDI, etc. What the equal opportunity areas areas do is identify where those greater barriers are, and that helps us when we're looking at how we spread our investment across the borough. It doesn't say only these areas can have that, and this has been pointed out by colleagues, but I just thought it was intriguing that this had even made it in, that the Conservatives didn't seem to understand that point, and yet go back to the previous motion and the amendment that they proposed for that. They put call on the government to provide the funding, workforce support and improve GP contracts. It's relevant. Needed to keep the surgeries open, particularly in areas of high deprivation. So you do get it. You just chose not to for this motion. On our work with the blind, I do think I need to address this. We do a lot of work with organisations and people in this borough who have visual impairments and also auditory impairments. We have been commended for the work that we do. Celia's team does. And it's great to hear you praising Celia, but then in the next breath, you go on to criticise the events that her team organises and criticise the consultations that they carry out. So I don't accept what you were saying there, Councillor Biddulph.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. I'm going to take the final one from Councillor Thompson, then I'm going to hand back to Councillor Sharma to sum up.
Oh dear, where to begin? Look, we took your motion, which we actually do understand, and we do know what these local areas are. We're not actually stupid. And we just said that we recognise their value. Of course, you're going to prioritise your resources in where you have the greatest need. Why would you not? But I think that's actually Councillor Joseph said very reasonably, and you actually said you totally agree with this. It's not just about those 11 areas. You said that. I don't know what my colleague over here was talking about. Enoch Powell, section 28. It's a very passionate speech to a motion that doesn't exist on a topic that no one's raised. No one's mentioned anything that waving flags and whatever else malarkey you're talking about, colleagues. Look, this is very simple, right? The point is equality doesn't stop at some point on a map. We need every community to feel that this matters to them. I'm sorry we have a Waitrose in Chiswick. It's probably one of the reasons why so many Labour councillors live in our part of the borough, and they're totally welcome. I wish, you know, I can't imagine why Waitrose don't want to settle themselves in Hounslow, but maybe that's a debate for another date. Look, what we need to do is recognise that, you know, we're not misunderstanding it. I'm getting fed up, aren't I? We were genuinely trying to strengthen it. That's why we stuck in here this section, which actually is not attacking you, it's attacking reform. This stupid idea that you're going to have somehow save millions of pounds by getting rid of all the whatever we're calling it is nonsense. And we've said that here. You didn't say that. We've said in here that this is a legal statutory duty to do the work that Celia and her team do. We put that in there. You didn't mention that. We've said, and surely you agree, you mentioned over there culture wars. We actually said we're not interested in silly PR and nonsense and so on. We actually want this to work. And who would disagree with that? Of course, you focus on the areas of greatest need. We'd say we're not actually stupid. We do get that. But why would you not want to spread the benefits out through other areas? We've all heard examples tonight that in all our wards, there are areas of deprivation. There are areas that where the equality and social mobility, for whatever reason, does not exist. There are communities, and they're not all living in that little area, those 11 zones, and we all know that. So why are we arguing about it? I don't understand why you can't accept it. Honestly, hand on heart, I cannot see what your problem is with our motion when you actually read it. But I suppose if I expected sanity and clarity from those opposite, I really perhaps, it's about time I thought about stepping down again. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sharma, can I ask you to sum up on the amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to firstly thank Councillor Dillon for explaining the difference equality by place can make in his home ward, actually in Cranford. And I'd also like to thank Councillor Dunn, Councillor Gruel, and Councillor Asim for their contribution as well. So that we are for setting out exactly how we're establishing equality, and so that no matter where you are, where you are, where you live, and where you come from, everybody has an equal shot at life.
Thank you, Councillor Sharma. So now we move to the vote on the amendment. All those in favour of accepting the amendment, raise your hands. All those against, raise your hands. And any abstentions? Thank you. Therefore, the amendment is not carried. So now we move to a debate on the motion as it originally stood. Yes, Councillor Todd. Sorry, Johns.
In a way. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Equality, diversity, and inclusion, Madam Mayor, are very powerful words. But when we put them together, they actually form the glue which holds our society together, that makes us live together, work together, and prosper together. And as the leader pointed out at the beginning of this meeting, this weekend, we saw the opposite of that. People who want inequality, people who want division, people who want exclusion. And how do they do that? They do it by creating fear. And they build that fear into anger and then they step that anger further into hatred. And we've seen what happens outside some of the hostels when that happens. This is something that we cannot allow in this borough, this city, and our country. Despite giving ourselves a hard time in this country is incredibly tolerant. It's a welcoming country. It's an open country. And that's something we need to be proud of. And if this country is welcoming and open, London is probably one of the most welcoming cities in the world. It might be our capital city, but actually London is now a global city. It's an international city. It's got a reputation worldwide for a place of opportunity and a place where everybody can prosper. And if London has that reputation, Hounslow stands out like a beacon within London as the centre of where people can come and enjoy life and be welcomed. Just turning now to equality specifically. Arguably, this country was at its most equal with the Attlee government post-war and all the changes it brought. Since then, that equality has been chipped away, chipped away, chipped away. And I have to say, by the forces of conservatism and as an open policy. And just let me quote Keith Joseph, one of the architects of Thatcherism. True conservatives need to make the case against egalitarianism. The pursuit of equality has done and is doing more harm and stunting the incentives and rewards that are essential to our society. That is conservative policy. That's why they don't want it. And why don't they want it? Because they don't want it out of fear. Because equality is about opportunity. And people fear it. Because what they think is if I have opportunity, you lose opportunity. If you have opportunity, I lose. The truth is, when one of us gets opportunities and prospers, we all prosper. We all get opportunity. It's like a light. If it shines on one person, it doesn't shine less on someone else. We should build on that opportunity, as Councillor Sharma said in her opening to this.
20 seconds, Councillor Stradtap.
I was going to go on a little bit more about the equality that we need in this, but equality, the other great misunderstanding about equality, it is not treating everybody the same. It's treating people so that they can excel and have the opportunities they need. And on that basis, I think this motion is extremely timely, and I'll commend it to Council.
Agreed. Thank you for reiterating what I said, in that it's an open discourse and recognition that none of us is perfect, and that regardless of gender, ethnicity, disability, income, or other identifying characteristic, such as where you live or work, we should all have access to the same opportunities, and we have the freedom of choice to decide how we use those. I'm really bemused by the violence of emotion that came about today as a result of our amendment. Because actually, we agree with what you're saying, but actually we've been vilified. We've been told we're stupid. We as Conservatives have been painted in such a despicable way that actually doesn't reflect any of our beliefs on this side of the table, of the chamber. Because actually, if you took the time to look at us as individuals with our own political ideas and beliefs, and not this monolith that you've created, you'd realize that that is the epitome of EDI, is looking at everybody as their own, with the things that they need as an individual to have access to the life that they want to live. And that doesn't really matter where you were born, who your parents were. And the thing is, actually, it should matter. None of that should matter. What it should be is that we should create a world where, regardless of the status that you're born in, that you can achieve the dreams that you want. And I think as a party, we are very much supportive of that, is that if you want to be Prime Minister, you can. If you want to be a civil engineer, you can, regardless of gender. You know, was it 2% of women go into engineering? I've lived that. You know, it's not that easy to overcome. And unless you speak to people who have those lived experiences, who can tell you what they are, what they need in order to achieve the success they want, It's not just about getting handouts, it's about having access to systems and support and people who can help shape that way. If we look at health inequalities, right? So people who don't have a doctor or in their family or immediate friendship group are less likely to have are going to have worse health outcomes than those who do, because the advocacy that you need to have as a patient accessing the NHS at the moment, given its burdens, are such that unless you can actually vocalize what you need, you're not going to get the treatment that you should have. Unfortunately, I've had a lot more of experience with this in the last couple of weeks than I'd like to. But fundamentally, I'm really disappointed by the way that this debate has gone, because we're supposed to be treating everybody with tolerance and fairness, and I've not seen any of that tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Based on the beginning of Councillor Giles's speech and the fact that there seems to be a general consensus about the principles, I don't feel that there's any more need to continue the debate, and so therefore I suggest we move to the vote. All those in favour of the motion, sorry. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Therefore, that motion is carried. Then we move to the final motion of this evening, item number 14. I now invite Councillor Farah Cameron to propose the motion. Councillor Cameron, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am pleased to propose this motion celebrating students and supporting parents. First, I am proud to stand here and celebrate the achievements of Hounslow students. Their GCSE, A-level and BTEC results remain well above the national average. This is an outstanding achievement, and I hope all colleagues will join me in congratulating our students, their teachers, and of course their parents who support them every step of the way. But while we are celebrating these successes, we must also recognize the very real challenges many families face. School uniforms are important. They are foster unity, discipline, and respect. They are meant to be social leveler, not a barrier to education. Yet a recent parent kind survey revealed the harsh reality. Almost a third of parents said they had gone without heating or food to pay for uniforms. Nearly half sorted to credit, and more than a third use buy now, pay later schemes. This is unacceptable. No parent should face such choices. The government forthcoming children well-being and school bill will limit branded items to a maximum of 3 from 2026. But families need relief now. The Education Secretary has already urged schools to act in advance, and we in Hounslow should do everything possible to support that call. I am proud that our borough is one of the few that provides school clothing grants, 60 pupils and £15 for children in full-time primary education. Many local schools are also taking steps to reduce branded items and support parents with affordable alternatives. This motion builds on that progress. It resolves to celebrate and commend the achievements of Hounslow students, to promote our school clothing grants more widely so more families can benefit, to encourage local schools to set up school swap shops and expand second-hand options, to promote cheaper alternatives such as sew-on or iron-on crest instead of costly branded items, and to press schools to comply with current guidance and go further now rather than waiting until the law comes into force. Colleagues, this motion strikes the right balance. It celebrates success while also tackling inequalities. It shows pride in our students and fairness for our families. I urge colleagues across this chamber to support this motion tonight so that together we send a clear message in Hounslow: no child should be excluded or disadvantaged because of the cost of a uniform. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Can I ask Councillor Yates to second the motion, please? You have 3 minutes, Councillor Yates.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proud to second this motion about celebrating our students and supporting our parents.
We heard earlier about the importance of lifting the barriers to opportunity and allowing our people to get on and achieve their potential. Our children are a credit to our borough. They have made us all proud. Compared to the national average, their GCSE results are 4% higher in maths and a whole 11% higher in English. Our A-level and BTEC students achieved 97% and 99% pass rates, and over 76% of A-levels were awarded at the top grades of A star to C. Our students are proof of the fact that talent and potential are distributed evenly across class, race, gender, and geography. The same cannot be said for opportunity. That's where we come in. The Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill is one of the single biggest pieces of legislation to tackle child protection and wellbeing. But the part of it we are discussing tonight concerns what we'll do for parents. Having a child is without doubt the greatest gift many parents will ever receive. But I won't lie, it's also one of the most expensive. That's why I welcome the cap on branded items of clothing, which could save families around £50 a year on their back to school shop. I want us as a council to go further in encouraging swap shops and cheaper iron-on badges. Our kids are clearly as smart as they come, and we want them looking smart too. School uniforms should be a social leveller. They should be a source of both discipline and pride, but no child should feel shamed at the school gates when their parents can't provide the proper uniform. So let's resolve to do as much as we can here and now and to go further in cutting the costs for our parents. The world of high politics can be a messy distraction from the real work of government. And if you look beyond the headlines and beyond the sound of fury, you will see the quiet and unglamorous work of change. Change means giving children their best start in life. It means saving parents money on school uniforms, and it means extending free school meals, which is something the Tories opposite voted against. It means rolling out breakfast clubs in all our primary schools to give parents an extra half hour at the beginning of the day. It means extending childcare provision to those who can't afford it. And it means helping parents access support through the rollout of the Best Start family hubs. Here in Hounslow, we're playing our part. Let us all play our part by voting in favour of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yates. We now move to a debate. Councillor Thompson.
We totally support this motion because it's been said, in fact, we actually supported all the motions tonight, if you think about it, but it quite rightly, and we've all said it repeatedly tonight, celebrates their achievement. I must say this is quite personal for me because actually my own daughter left a Hounslow school, as did her brother and sister this year. And at the weekend, I dropped her off and there were a few tears to be had at university. And I know how much, as a teacher and as a parent, how much hard work and resilience and determination she and her friends put into what they had to do with A-levels. I also know as a parent how much hard work we put in. I never again want to help revise the Tudor rebellions or the rise of Mussolini or the German history from 1870 to 92. I'm quite pleased to be finally out as a parent of the educational system. No more newsletters, no more raffle books, no more PTA Christmas fairs and all the rest of it. But the motion does quite rightly focus on the cost. There is a cost. I teach in an inner city London school in one of the most deprived boroughs in our wonderful city, and I know the benefit of uniform. Now, I must admit, I do spend far too much of my day telling boys to pull up their saggy trousers and girls trying to get them to roll down their skirts, but so be it. It does have a great impact on discipline, as colleagues have mentioned tonight. I can even remember as a child in Sheffield being taken down to what was then called the Education Committee buildings, and the doors are opened and there's like this Aladdin's cave of various school uniforms, and you went along, a bit like being in the army or prison, I suppose. You were piled up with, in our case, awful green attire that we had to wear in Notre Dame in Sheffield for those years there. And I also know as a parent that uniform is expensive, especially when silly secondary schools, and it's mainly secondary schools we're talking about, insist on putting stripes on blazers and two-tone effects and all the rest of it. The cost goes up. The Hounslow secondary school nearest to me, it probably as a year 6 parent going into year 7, we had a report Councillor Giles was passing on, 300 quid for the uniform. It's not small money. I'm delighted that we are one of the few boroughs that, a bit like in my day in Sheffield, we're now one of the few boroughs that helps families out. But I'm afraid our £60, it'd be wonderful, wouldn't it, if we could do better. So we're fully behind it, we fully support it, and just don't forget, because we had a few, as always, a few slagging off of the previous government. It was the last Conservative government that started this one, but we're fully supportive of the present government's decision to make the 3 branded pieces of uniform a statutory requirement.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Bowring.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to give a little bit of context, albeit anecdotally, of what the cost of uniforms can look like to parents. 13 days ago, my daughter started secondary school, and we had to buy her a number of branded items. The branded blazer alone cost £98. If we bought it in M&S or John Lewis, it would have been 26, 29 quid. In Asda, £16. And that was before we bought skirts, shirts, ties, PE kits, jumpers, and something called a skort. We paid for it, we had the means to do so, but for many parents, an outlay of hundreds and hundreds of pounds would have been incredibly challenging. And it's branded items produced in small supply runs that don't benefit from the economies of scale that are most costly. Also, shockingly, it is common for school uniforms to represent 25% of a school's carbon footprint. And because children obviously need to wear clothes, the best way to bring this impact down is to encourage the use of second-hand uniform by sale or swap, which this motion covers. This motion stands up for parents, stands up for students, it stands up for the planet. Going to school is a right and it shouldn't be a burden. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor
Madam
Bowring.
Mayor, in the interest of the clock and in the interest of 13.12 of the Constitution, as we're all agreeing, could I suggest that the question now be put?
I'll second that.
Yes. I think it's fair to say that everybody is in agreement. So I think it is fair to now move to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. In that case, the motion is carried. We can then move to agenda item 15, which is any urgent matters that I consider urgent. I don't consider any matters urgent. Next item agenda is the date of the next meeting. Next meeting of the council is scheduled for Tuesday, the 25th of November. Please make sure you sign the attendance book on the way out, and the meeting is now closed. Thank you very much for your participation.